blink before this. Not only did these storms pop up earlier than expected, but we already have our first severe thunderstorm warning in our own area. This is only one of the two storms I'll talk about, and really we have a couple of them here. We have this storm in southern Ellis County bringing hail to the Milford area, and then we also have the other storm moving into Waxahachie right now. It looks like the more intense of these is going to be that southern storm there in the Milford area. Now, farther to the, oh yeah, National Weather Service just issued a severe thunderstorm watch, by the way. Got it. Okay, now, so we have the severe thunderstorm warning, and I see in the comments that the sirens in Milford are going off. We'll talk about that here in a second. Bosque County here, this was actually severe warned before the Ellis County storms were, but this one moving into parts of Hill and Johnson County here in the next several minutes. Both of these warnings are primarily for large hail. I don't see a lot of wind going on, possibly some gustier winds towards Walnut Springs there in northern Bosque County, but I will tell you that there's also not really a whole lot of wind in this storm, although I'm looking at a indication here in the Milford area. I think you might start seeing some strong winds there here momentarily, because it looks like there could be the beginnings of a downburst there in the Milford area. So just be alert that not only is $half size hail possible, really in both of these storms, but we could have those sudden gusty winds that pop up there as well. This is a continuation of the pattern we've had this spring of just seemingly non-stop, repetitive, over and over and over again storms. And I'm hearing that the sirens in Milford have turned off. The sirens in Milford would be for the large hail and damaging winds, probably the large hail threat primarily. But I would say that right now that there's not a tornado threat going on at this time with these storms. Let's see what the scan will bring us here, and we'll zoom into Ellis County here fairly quickly. And we still have that hail core down towards Milford, north of Mertens there, south of Italy. So that's where we're looking. That's the main hail threat there. This storm moving into Waxahachie fairly quickly here, and that's kind of a northeasterly trajectory there. This storm to the south, I want to put this in motion and see. Doesn't look like it's moving too terribly quickly. Yeah, it's moving at a decent clip here, but I will say that if this storm slows down at all, then that will probably pose more of a flooding threat. I'm not as concerned, let me move this over a little bit better. I'm not as concerned about flooding with these storms because they're going to be more isolated in nature, and we're also not really looking at a situation right now where we have to where we're seeing multiple storms training over and over again. So you will get heavy rain. The ground is well saturated at this time, but I'll tell you that, I really don't think we're going to be dealing with too much of a flood problem today. Now, with that said, these are the first storms we're seeing of the day, and realistically, this is not kind of the main run of storms. This right here we're starting to see, and really realistically, these are the storms I was waiting for, from Bridgeport down towards Grafford there. You see this boundary, this is the dry line. So these are popping up well ahead of the dry line out there. This is the dry line that I expect will continue to kind of move in and then probably stall somewhere out here, probably from, I would say it probably doesn't make it to Weatherford here. So the dry line will stall and will kick off more storms. Those will move in later this evening and tonight. Those will be the storms that are to be more concerned about when it comes to graduation services. I believe Italy has already moved theirs indoors. I know Waxahachie is dealing with kind of a bit of a few scenarios that are possible. The earliest for Waxahachie is 8 o'clock. I mean, they're already getting a late start. I imagine they probably have fireworks that they're doing as a part of that, so they're waiting for the sun to go down. But I'm telling you folks, they're looking at possibly a 9 o'clock, even a 10 o'clock start, or possibly a 10 a.m. start. My gut feeling is they may end up looking at a 10 a.m. start, because I think that once the thunderstorms get rolling here, I think it could be a very long night, depending, of course, on what pops up along the dry line. If we get storms farther to our west or southwest along the dry line, if they stay north of us, then that may ease things on as we get into the evening. But we're already getting an early start here. And so the storms in Ellis County, one in Waxahachie, one, of course, southern part of that area, and then this storm, too, is now starting to split. All right, and so we're seeing a split with this storm here. So one near Clifton, that is going to be moving towards the Whitney area. This storm here, that will be moving towards Blum, Rio Vista. So we should see a new severe thunderstorm warning issued, if not for the southerly storm, probably for this northern one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a warning issued there going into parts of Johnson and Hill counties right now. And then over in Waxahachie, we continue to see, I'm going to pause this so we can see those updates. We continue to see the strongest storm down to the south, and then a heavy shower here, heavy thunderstorm. It does look like we're getting the lightning there with this storm in Waxahachie. I'm actually going to open my blinds here. I closed them to kind of keep up with the lighting, but looks like I should see this one moving in over the studio here fairly soon. And temperatures have been fairly warm today, so it doesn't surprise me much that probably weakened the cap and allowed for these storms to come in. Of course, once you get the dry line involved, that's going to provide enough lift. And we also have a disturbance coming through. So there's multiple sources of lift here that are kind of helping to keep these storms going. And so the northerly storm that's moving into Waxahachie, it looks like that one's weakening a little bit. There's that severe thunderstorm warning I was looking for. So again, parts of Hill and Johnson counties. So that's that warning that I was expecting for that northern storm to the southwest. We'll take a look at that here in a second. But for Ellis County, the primary concern is the storm south of Italy. It doesn't look like we're getting a whole lot in the storm in Waxahachie. I'm hearing there's pouring going on in Waxahachie, but I'm not expecting to see hail, at least not large hail or anything out of this particular storm. I'm waiting to see what the velocity is going to show us. Looks like that's an updated picture. Yeah, still not seeing any kind of rotation. I'm sure you are looking at the right around Milford. I'm sure you're looking at the shape of this storm. That, you're kind of looking at that going, a little bit of a notch there, a little bit of a hook. Not yet, not really. So we'll see curvatures on these storms just because there's plentiful shear out there. But these storms, we will be watching to see if those try to rotate. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch that, I haven't seen a map of that watch. I imagine it covers all of our area. Oh yeah, just all of our counties included in that severe thunderstorm watch, and that's until 10 p.m. So severe thunderstorm watch for this area until 10 p.m. this evening. I don't expect a tornado watch to be issued. I think our tornado risk at this point is going to be fairly low. I think it's relatively low at this point, but we do still have to watch for that, of course. It's a low tornado risk, but it's not zero. We have to keep an eye on that. So let's go back over to the storm that we were watching here, this new warning that's been issued up into parts of Hill and Johnson counties. This is that storm, and pretty sure that's just going to be for the hail threat here. It may mention some winds. So let's see what that tells us. 60 mile per hour wind gusts and $50 size hail. So that's pretty, I think, consistent with what we're seeing. Brian Bennett, you say it's pouring at the lake. Which lake are you talking about? I'm not sure which lake. We got a lot of lakes in our area, so I'm not sure which one you're referring to. And there's a lot of questions about, how long is this going to last? I know everybody's looking at graduation tonight, at least in Waxahachie, right? That's your first immediate thought. These particular storms, this is not the end. This is not all of it. We have more storms we're going to be watching for later today. We were watching to see what storms were going to pop up west of us along the dry line. I was expecting to see storms popping up farther to the west around 4 or 5, probably getting here around 6 or 7 o'clock. But we've had these storms pop up already, and so we're well ahead of schedule with this first round of storms. We haven't even seen what the dry line is going to give us yet. So we're far from done with the storms today. We will still see more activity as we get into the latter part of the day. But we have just a severe thunderstorm watch until 10 o'clock tonight. That's when that severe thunderstorm watch ends. Now, does that mean we're going to be done at 10 o'clock? It's possible, but I'm not putting a lot of confidence in it. The models today have been putting a little bit of a later schedule along those dry line storms that will be, at this point, our second round. This is our first round. I only expected one round of storms today. I wasn't expecting this earlier round to pop up. But that will be our second round later today, is those storms that pop up along the dry line, move east. And just to show you some scale again, I can show you this is the dry line to our west. It's pretty clear on the radar, continues on down towards Eastland there, but we already have those storms popping up. And so I will be interested to see what pops up around Stephenville or Hamilton or even further south to see what we will get later on in the day, later on in the evening. This storm heading into McLennan County now, that will probably be warned fairly soon. There's a lot of lift, and you felt it outside, a lot of humidity, a lot of instability. So there's a lot of fuel for these storms to work with. This southerly storm here, that will be making its way into Navarro County here fairly soon. So that's going to be moving towards the Blooming Grove area there. So let's take these areas kind of two at a time. Here's the hail core right there around Avalon, Frost area there. That will continue on to the east towards Blooming Grove, eventually probably towards Corsicana. We'll have to see how much this one continues to move to the northeast, or does it continue this kind of easterly, almost southeasterly direction. The storm moving through Waxahachie right now looks like that's kind of moved a little bit to the east, a little bit more northeasterly, so that's probably headed towards Palmer. Another little storm there headed probably towards Ennis. Ennis, you've already had a hailstorm through there today. One of the storms, one of the first ones that popped up, very quickly blew up and raced on east. And so Ennis, unfortunately, is probably going to get another downpour here. I don't expect a lot of hail out of these storms, but any of these storms could produce hail. So this particular storm, this southerly storm that just moved through the Milford area, and man, Radar Omega has just been struggling lately. Keep having to reset it. I'll tell you what, I think, let me see if I can turn that off here. I think I'm going to yeah, I think I'm gonna have to turn that sweep off, because unfortunately when I put it back into motion, it just messes up the frame rate here. So here's that storm. That's going to continue on to the east, northeast. So looks like it'll probably go north of Blooming Grove, probably a little bit more towards Rice here. So we'll have to watch these, but we've seen these storms, the way they can veer to the right a little bit, veer to the left a little bit. That's why some of these warnings are so big. For one, this leaves room for either of these storms to reach severe limits, and it leaves this one room to move northeast, or they'll probably issue another warning for northern parts of Navarro County here. And farther to the west, we'll take another view here. And yeah, so 3 storms lined up, all of them hail producers. This one right towards Morgan, moving towards Blum and Rio Vista. This storm just moved through Clifton. That's going to be headed towards Whitney here. And then this storm going to be moving more towards Gulson West and Abbott. So Hill County, I would expect to see another warning here fairly soon for these storms too. So that'll include Whitney and Hillsborough, probably Abbott and West as well. And you know, there's a lot of people wondering about graduation tonight, and I'm not going to be able to repeat this answer every 5 minutes or so. So if, you know, people in the comments, if you want to answer those as they come in, I imagine half the people that jump into the comment section are probably going to want to know about graduation. And it's, at this point, it's way too, I mean, it's 3:30 just about right now, so it's way too early to know what 8 o'clock is going to look like. But there's a chance of storms, that we could have storms rolling through. I'm not sure how this will actually, I'm not sure how exactly these storms will affect a later round. If this is the last of the storms, they may blow through, and then I mean, we could have the atmosphere recycle before storms off the dry line farther to the west move in later this evening and tonight. So there's still a chance that we could have storms that affect graduation, but I can't put any kind of certainty on anything until we get closer to. This is unfortunately one of those days where it depends on when and where the storms develop and where they go. There's no squall line to say, hey, it's going to do exactly this or exactly that. We just have to watch and wait and see. So we have the severe thunderstorm here getting ready to enter parts of Hill and Johnson County. Again, Rio Vista and Blum. That's kind of the target area for this particular storm. I see it moving in the next, 10, 15 minutes. And Terry's going to run to the store here. I think she should be okay. She's asking if I need anything. All right, so sounds like she and the kiddos are going to go get ahead of these storms and try to run to the store and see what they're going to get. Let me just put in an order here. Could be a long afternoon, long night, so I'm going to put in some supplies, put in a request for some snacks there. So the severe thunderstorm warning has been cut back here. So here's where we have the storms kind of centering along the I-45 corridor in Ellis County and then moving towards the Blooming Grove area here in Navarro County. There's that hail core, and that's moving towards Blooming Grove, going to continue on to the east. And really, it is taking more of a kind of a due east track. So between Rice and Corsicana, it looks like that's where that stronger storm will move through. And then off to farther to the southwest, that's where we have the other storms that we are watching. And really just kind of a line of them, three particular storms. And it looks like this one, I think, is probably going to get absorbed by the southerly storm and then the storm to the north. That's that severe thunderstorm moving towards Rio Vista and Blum. That could move into Ellis County towards Venus and Midlothian later on. So we'll continue to watch that as that moves northeastward, and all of this, of course, going through our particular area here. And I know that there's going to be a lot of folks asking about their particular town. Let me just put the radar up there so you can kind of see what we have across our area right now. Two areas of storms, one in eastern Ellis County, northwestern Navarro County, and then headed into parts of Johnson and Hill County right now. I'm still expecting a warning for this storm, most likely. So living in an area near Bedford, Texas, we haven't had any rain. Should I turn on my lawn sprinklers? Well, we have a lot of day and evening to go. This is a very early start to what I've already expected to be a long afternoon and a long evening. So I wouldn't make any decisions based on the storms right now. We have to see what the dry line does. To zoom this out again and show the dry line here, we already have a storm north of Weatherford, already have a new one near Strawn. So as that dry line continues eastward and this disturbance moves through, we have plenty of lift to get new storms developed farther to the south. So I'm curious to see what we get towards, west of Stephenville, towards Comanche and that area. Those would be the storms later on this evening that would move through. So it's way too early to tell what graduation may be like. It's way too early to tell what tomorrow's going to look like. We kind of got to live in the moment here for most of our areas tonight, because again, it depends on when and where they pop up. That's the worst possible weather to plan by, unfortunately, but that's why you got to be watching. But you can see these storms along the dry line. For one, look at that curvature. Just look at that. I mean, there is plenty of shear in the air, and the shear, if it doesn't cause rotation in these storms, it at least increases those updrafts, which increases your hail sizes, increases your strong winds, those kinds of things. So there's plenty to talk about, plenty to cover in these storms, and plenty to be worth looking at, worth watching all of this. and hoping everyone has seen the plan from WISD if storming to keep us safe. Yeah, Waxahachie ISD, I know they are watching this. They are keeping a close eye on weather conditions. They'll continue to do that, and they have a plan in place. Unfortunately, part of that plan is starting at 9 o'clock and even 10 o'clock. I have a feeling it may be a Saturday morning graduation for folks, because the way that the storms look this evening, and the way that, at least if we continue to see storms pop up farther south along the dry line and those move in, I mean, it's probably going to be 6, 7, 8 o'clock at least when those things move in, and then they kind of hang around for a while. So this is going to be a long afternoon and a long evening, unfortunately. But the good news is, hey, at least it's Friday, right? At least it's Friday. We don't have work tomorrow. We got a 3-day weekend, most of us, coming up with Memorial Day. And unfortunately, now it's looking like Memorial Day could have some storms with it too. So I'm curious now to see, I'm very curious to see at this point, when does the rain come to an end? And here's that new severe thunderstorm warning we were watching for in Navarro County here. It looks like they're looking for that storm to take a right turn here, move towards Corsicana, towards Kearns, towards the lake there, Richland Chambers Reservoir. So we'll see that turn to the right and proceed that way. Whew, man. Early start today, very early start today, and I'm not sure I was really prepared for it. I was getting some work done at Hope Health, trying to get, at least, 3-4 hours done, and then 2:30, all of a sudden these start popping up out of nowhere. So it's been a tough season to plan anything, and I know that better than anybody else. So I know there's been a lot of events and a lot of folks that have really had a hard time knowing just how to plan things out. Unfortunately, I think that's going to continue. Now, I don't know when the spigot in the sky will turn off and will go without rain for a long time this spring, or rather this summer, but eventually it will happen, and we will probably be missing this rain. I'm not sure I will, though. This spring has tested my persistence and my patience, I think, with the way that it's just been a constant grind going forward with this severe weather. Let me just bring up this so I can follow some notifications. All the alerts I'm getting here too. So here's the situation with the 2 areas of storms, really 3 areas of storms, 2 in our area, 1 that we're watching to the west. First is here in Ellis County and Navarro County. Severe thunderstorm warnings in both places. This warning, I believe, goes until 4 o'clock. Let me move this back. Let me kind of adjust myself here so I'm out of the way. And of course, the mouse doesn't want to work in that configuration either. I get myself oriented here. Let me zoom in on that really quickly and just kind of go area by area. So here are the storms we have from Palmer all the way down to Ennis and Bardwell. So here are some non-severe thunderstorms at this time. This warning goes until 4 o'clock, and I think they will probably cancel this warning and then keep this one going, because this is the severe storm we have going on in the eastern half of our area. So that will continue on towards Blooming Grove and Berry, towards Corsicana, towards Mildred and Powell, and on towards it could possibly go south of Kearns here, over towards Richland Chambers Reservoir, and then a new little cell popping up right near Italy. So it looks like that will bring more rain to the Ennis and Garrett area there. So just non-stop, just will not let up. And then on the western half of our area, we have this storm here, which looks like it could be weakening a little bit. But let me tell you, you can't take these storms very seriously when they appear to be weakening, because it's never a surprise to see these things ramp up again. So just, understand that and be prepared for that. And this towards the south now, south of Whitney, towards Golson, and heading probably towards West and Abbott, we have this storm here. Looks like that one has weakened some, but again, any of these storms can easily intensify again and really pick up the pace. And I'm watching for any kind of signs of strong winds or rotation or anything of that sort with these storms. Not seeing that at this time. There could be, let's check in on this storm in the Blooming Grove area. It looks like this particular storm, there could be some kind of very broad rotation with this storm. It's very disorganized and barely even really recognizable, but nothing that we really have to be too concerned about at this point. So that's really where we're kind of focused right now, is watching this storm. Right now, the primary issue is that hail threat. I mean, if we look at the VIL here, vertically integrated liquid, plenty of hail in that storm, stretching from near Lone Cedar almost to Dresden there, all the way through Blooming Grove. So plenty of hail possible in that particular storm. And this is going to continue to move on to the east. And the warning shows this thing trying to take a right turn. So I think they might be preparing for that. So just be aware of that this storm is likely to move towards the Corsicana area. So taking this forward, I do expect that to move towards Corsicana here. The hail core itself, we'll have to see if that continues that southeasterly, that kind of east-southeast orientation, or if that continues on to the northeast here. And again, these storms, there's really no way to know. The farther away you are from a storm, the less certain you can be about its track, because plenty of these storms will go kind of wherever they want to, essentially. It's just all over the place. When are we getting a South Metro storm chasing vehicle? Well, you get one as soon as I can figure out how to do this and that at the same time. When I first started this whole thing, I was fully prepared to get out and live stream and chase from the field and all those kind of things. But that's going to be a little bit more, I think, involved than we might imagine. So I am interested in something like that, but actually making that a reality, a much, much different animal than what it may seem. So, but again, don't think I hadn't thought about it. It's just one of those things that it seems that most of the followers of this page really prefer that I'm here in front of the radar showing you when storms are coming in. So that's kind of where we are as far as the just kind of the realities of it. And the phone, I don't know why these phones have facial recognition when they don't use it, because they definitely don't seem to want to use it. So more storms are popping up here. You see this one just northeast of Italy. That will be headed towards the Ennis area. It's not doing much right now, but it could very well do something here fairly soon. So these storms heading off to the northeast, not severe at this time, I don't believe. The storm over Palmer, I don't think that's severe. That's going to continue on up towards the Kaufman County area here fairly soon. This is really one of the more intense storms we have here in Navarro County. And then, of course, the severe warned storm moving into Blum now, going to be moving towards Rio Vista and on from there. So this storm will be moving towards Grandview and probably goes at least mostly south of, I would say, mostly south of Cleburne there, and then continues on to the northeast from there on. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it would be a very costly venture there. So here's where we are, and I'll put this into motion for you, and we'll just kind of leave up this broader view. And as we again back this up, I just want to point out again for you folks that this is going to be our first round of storms, I believe. I'm not absolutely sure if we'll get more storms with the dry line this evening, but we are watching storms already popping up with the dry line. And if we have any more of them down to the south, that will become more interesting for our area as far as anything later this evening, 6, 7, 8 o'clock time period. Right now, plenty of storms to keep us busy here, definitely ahead of the schedule I expected. Again, I mentioned earlier 4 or 5 o'clock for the storms popping up west of us, and then only seeing storms for our particular area after that point. Yes, Kevin, we need you to have our 6. I feel much safer when you're our live stream. Yeah, so that's the thing is people generally enjoy seeing the live stream this way, to where I'm actually showing them where the storms are going, letting you know what's going on, that sort of thing. So I'm not in a hurry by any means to do a kind of storm chasing, model here. Okay. All right, just checking in to see what the family's up to. Let's see. I guess another fellow weather geek has jumped in. A meso gamma scale interactions could trigger tornado genesis in some storms that split and move east-southeast. Okay, I'm not really sure what to say to that, but this chat seems more on the serious side today. Last time I was watching this guy, it was all Whataburger jokes. James Pinkston, we do all things here at South Metro Weather. I try to keep it more, I try to keep it more lighthearted when we can. Obviously, weather's no joke here in Texas. Have to be serious about that. But I try to keep it lighthearted when I can. And Thompson, so you're talking about outflow boundaries, etc. They can. I mean, you can have those boundaries where those storms interact with those. That can increase the rotation and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it is possible. Somebody's saying we're in Lancaster, time to put the car in the garage. Well, I mean, you look at Lancaster on the map here, and, there's nothing headed your way immediately. There's not anything in the short term headed your way. This storm here could be, but again, it's pretty far away, and we have to wait and see what that storm does. So if there's nothing near your town, you're kind of in a standby position at this point. Just try to make sure that you're watching things, and we'll of course let you know when those storms are headed your direction there in southern Dallas County. But for right now, the only concern is in Navarro County here. This storm continues. That is severe warned. That's going to be moving towards the Corsicana area. We have a strong storm just moved out of Palmer. That's going to be moving more towards Kaufman County there. Severe storm in southern Johnson County. So see where that goes in northwestern Hill County. And then the storm in northern McLennan County looks like that's weakened pretty effectively here. So not expecting much there. This storm east of Italy that's going right up 34 here towards towards in the Avalon area now, headed towards Bardwell, and it's not really doing much. So I don't expect much from that. And then off to the northwest, yes, we are watching for more storms that could be popping up farther to the west. Again, I'm interested in storms around Stephenville, Comanche. Those would be the ones that would move our way later tonight around 6, 7, 8 o'clock. Somebody asking, am I going to make it to the Polka Festival in Ennis this weekend? I'm not sure. I can't make any promises there, but I have thought about it. So I'm going to, try to see if I can make it out there this weekend. I always love to go to events here in our area, so I'll see if I can make it out to Polka Fest this weekend. Looks like Ellis County has been canceled from that severe thunderstorm warning. Just looking at this storm now, headed right for Corsicana. And so for this particular area, this is where we're watching this storm that is moving, looks like due east here. Maybe a little bit of a southeasterly draw here, but mostly to the east, again, right towards Corsicana here. And this is a experienced, I would say, hail producer here. So this storm moving right towards Corsicana right now, this storm capable of producing some large hail. I would say hail probably up to at least half dollar size is what the warning says, but I would say that larger hail is possible here. I would not be surprised to see some possible, golf ball size hail from this storm. So as that continues to move eastward, be prepared for hail out of this storm. In M House as well. So M House, Corsicana, possibly down to Oak Valley, and that will continue on to the east towards Powell Kearns and right there at Richland Chambers Reservoir there. And you're asking if I cover Bell County area, Temple and Killeen. That's a little farther south than what I cover, but I know that Killeen and Temple have had more than their fair share of severe weather the last few days. My heart goes out to you, frankly, because of how much you guys have had to put up with recently. It's just been unbelievable. I know people are wondering about Ennis here. You can't really see it behind the banner there, but you do have a shower moving your way, about to cross over Bardwell and Lake Bardwell there, moving up to the Ennis area. So it's not, you're not in a position to get severe weather here very soon, but you do have another shower headed your way. And for all the people that are not familiar with our coverage area is these 4 counties right here: Ellis, Hill, Johnson, and Navarro counties. So we're north of Waco, south of Dallas. That's our coverage area. So outside of that, I'm not usually covering that area there. Sometimes I will cover parts of Dallas County, parts of McLennan County here, kind of on the periphery of our area, but these are our core counties: Ellis, Hill, Johnson, Navarro counties. So Waxahachie, Cleburne, Hillsborough, and Corsicana areas. So we're different than a lot of the weather streamers out there, because a lot of these weather streamers will just cover wherever the storms are coming up. I would rather specialize in this area than actually, just try to cover everywhere and have no idea about the area that I'm actually covering. I would much rather be focused in on these communities and be able to be consistent here than just try to storm chase online and do all of these different things in all these different areas that I may not be familiar with. So that's kind of the philosophy here. Some questions about, so it appears rice may only get nicked. So I would say that it could move south of rice. I wouldn't say that rice is out of the woods by any means. I mean, if we zoom into this thing, I would say that rice may still get some heavy rain out of this, and I would still be prepared for some hail there. I mean, it's not a guarantee at this point, but you could very easily see that there. None of these storms at this moment pose a tornado risk. I don't see any kind of rotation on the other monitor over there. Not really seeing much in terms of those strong winds either. And we'll get another look here. It looks like there could be some gusty winds moving into the Rio Vista area right now, where that other severe thunderstorm warning is. We'll see what that tells us. Yeah, I mean, Rio Vista, Blum area, you could be looking at some gusty winds there, but there's not a tornado threat for that area right now. No rotation that I can see. This storm continues on to the east. This is here in Navarro County. This is continuing on eastward here. Let's go back over to the western half of the area where the other severe thunderstorm warning is in place. For this storm here, kind of moving to the north-northeast, this is heading into Rio Vista now, headed towards Grandview. Going to nick Itasca there towards Keene and Venus and Midlothian and Alvarado. So this storm we'll be watching to see if that will hit parts of northwestern Ellis County. I know we got some people in Midlothian that are tuning in, probably seeing this storm in the distance, wondering if that's headed your way, and it could be. We'll see if that holds together long enough to make it all the way into that particular area. Okay, and I'm just following some updates here. Yeah, so the warning was canceled. So there are no warnings in Ellis County right now. This storm has moved off to the east. Let me get out of the way here. So this storm has moved on to the east, moving into Kaufman County. Here's the storm in Navarro County that is moving right towards Corsicana there, off into Ellis County, just a shower. Moving into Bardwell there, going to be moving towards Ennis. And then over in our western zones here, this storm moving towards Rio Vista and Grandview, that will continue on to the northeast and could move into Venus and Midlothian, as well as the Alvarado area. So I would say western portions, southern and western portions of Johnson County, and the northwestern, I would say southern and eastern portions of Johnson County, northwestern Ellis County. This area right here, that's where you want to be watching for the path of this severe thunderstorm. The primary risk with these storms today is large hail. We haven't seen much in terms of straight line winds. This storm looks like it could be giving some stronger winds here as it passes through, but for the most part, it's going to be a hail threat. $half sized hail is mentioned in the warning. That's the threat, but I would tell you we could see easily golf ball sized hail out of some of these storms as they continue to ramp up and intensify. I want to zoom out one more time and just kind of give a very broad view. And so far with the dry line out here, this was really what we were watching today. Just a few storms. One of those didn't quite make it. one storm in Decatur there, one storm over moving towards Parker County. So just north of us, really looking more at the Metroplex right now with those storms, not much for our particular area. Then here in Johnson County, in Navarro County, I guess I'm going to have to go check on the kids because they are screaming right now. So if you'll give me one moment, I got to step away and we'll be right back. Well, I know everybody loves when Jensen makes appearances here, and I think we're going to have to let him join in for a little bit. But we continue to watch these two storms. I had to step away to kind of evaluate the situation there. So these storms moving through Navarro County and then moving into southern Johnson County. These are the two severe thunderstorm warnings that we have in place right now. So let's go, again, we'll kind of go zone by zone here. This is the first storm. This is moving into parts of Navarro County, right towards Corsicana here. The storm to the north, that has moved on to Kaufman County here. Okay. Now over to the east, or to the west rather, this storm moving right into the Grandview area. Just moved out of Covington, just moved past Blum, and that's going to be moving right into the Grandview area, could be moving eventually towards Venus, Midlothian, Alvarado, kind of that area too. So that's what we're watching right now. And then in addition to all of that, I'm watching farther west to see if we're going to get more development, possibly towards Eastland, Comanche, Stephenville region along the dry line. Right now, all staying north, really, of I-20 here, at least along or north of I-20. But we'll watch and see what this eventually does as that dry line continues to make its way our direction. Oh, very heavy kiddo here. So for now, it's hard to say whether we're done for the night. I know a lot of folks are watching, wondering about graduation. It's very hard to say exactly what that's going to look like, because if we continue to see more storms farther to the south along the dry line here, it's very possible that we could see more development, more storms move into our area around 6, 7, 8 o'clock tonight. Oh man, you are heavy, dude. You are one unit of a child. Can you see yourself on the monitor over there? See? See the Jesus? See? See? Yep. See? I know. I can see that out there. There's not much happening out there right now. See? Yep. No, I don't see a fire truck right now. See? Now, if you're pretending, sure, but don't think we see that right now. So for the moment, the main concern, as I mentioned, is going to be large hail. That's the primary risk. We could be looking at a situation where we have some stronger winds in southern Johnson County here, but they don't look like severe winds at this time. Thank you to Jennifer for your donation through the Cash App. That is greatly appreciated there. Let me just kind of check up on something here. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so no tornado watches, no tornado warnings. In fact, no imminent tornado threat right now. I'm watching the velocity on another one of these monitors, and I don't see any rotation at this time. So that's the good news with these storms. Let me kind of zoom in here and just kind of leave this in motion where you can see what's happening. But no rotation around these storms at the moment. I will say that we are not done. We will be watching to see what this storm, what this whole setup does later this evening. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch until 10 o'clock. That was issued after these storms popped up. I think the National Weather Service was, just like me, probably waiting, not really ready for these storms to pop up at 2:30 in the afternoon. We were looking closer to 4 or 5 o'clock. So these storms definitely got ahead of us. Yeah. Oh, man. I'm going to have to sit you in a chair, buddy. Yeah, that's just the light. It's not. What?
See?
Uh-huh.
See?
No, I don't see a fire truck out there right now, but I'm sure there will be one. There's one in town right now. This kid loves fire trucks, by the way, so that's what he's talking about. All right, let me see if I can get this guy in a chair here, because, man, you are heavy for me to have on my arm there. All right. Let's see if he'll hang out there and maybe just watch. Nicole, he is getting big. He's very, very big. So this storm right over Corsicana right now, right over the heart of Navarro County, and it looks, just on face value, does look like the hail core has calmed down a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. And let me get back over. Let me just choose that instead. Yeah. So this storm, and you could be looking at some new hail popping up just north of M House there as well. The pink does not always mean hail. Let me just advise of that. But with the way the updrafts are now, I mean, you're pretty well looking at hail being possible in just about any of these storms. Hey, no, don't touch the camera. No. No. Okay. Well, I was hoping maybe he would be hands off, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Just sit down, buddy. Just sit down, hang out. I'm asking a toddler to stay still. That's probably a pretty rich order there. Why don't you go play with Bubba? Want to go play with Bubba? Yeah. Go play with Bubba. Go watch your show. All right. Now let's close the door. Hey, Charlie. Oop, careful. See if I can get the kids arranged here. It's like herding cats. Come on, why don't you go watch your show? Go watch your show with Bubba. Go watch your show with Bubba, and then close the bathroom door too, because I don't really want him in there. Go watch your show with Bubba. All right. Okay, maybe that was enough entertainment for him for a little bit. Okay, so getting reports of hail in Corsicana now. So that storm, it's holding on to its hail core. I doubt it's quite as large as it was back towards Blooming Grove and west of Italy, east of Italy there, west of Frost there. It's probably where we're seeing some of the larger hail, but that has kind of settled down just a little bit here. So that's the good news. And farther to the west, though, that storm holding on to its intensity as it moves into Grandview here. So Grandview going to be over towards Maypearl, and then I do still think it could make its way over towards the Midlothian area as well. Okay, so yeah, getting a report of very small hail in Corsicana there. So not a large hail situation in Corsicana right now. That's the good thing. And I am seeing possibly some increasing winds north of M House. Could have a little bit of a let's see, let me pull this back. Yeah, it looks like we could be looking at some increasing winds around M House right now. So would not be surprised if there might be a little bit of a downburst going on there right now. So if you're in M House, let's go right over back to that area. If you're in M House right now, then in that area you may be seeing a quick rush of winds. Could be looking at some downburst winds there right now. So don't be alarmed if you do have those increasing winds in that area. It does, on the velocity, look like we are seeing a bit of a increase there. But this is the, let me just kind of pause this so we can get ourselves oriented. So here's the hail core just south of Grandview. That's going to be moving right here towards the Ellis County, Johnson County, Hill County line. So that corner there, going to be moving right that way. So it looks like it could be moving closer to Maypearl there. If not, might slide between Grandview and Maypearl, make its way up towards the Midlothian area. I think this stays west of Waxahachie here. But I do think that, yeah, so it looks like it's going to go kind of maybe just west of Maypearl, and then possibly up towards the Mount Peak and Midlothian area there. And yeah, so just reading some comments here. Definite reports of hail in Corsicana. The backyard looks like a jungle. Yeah, and it's been tough to keep up with it with all the rain that we've had. Definitely hard to spend quality time out there on the lawn. So farther to the west, we continue to really just see a couple of storms. One of those southwest of Weatherford there, that will most likely move through the Metroplex. What could be interesting to see is if this one takes a right turn, that could orient it farther closer to our area. But for the moment, it looks to be moving due west at this point. So, yeah, it looks like it started northeast, might be moving more due east. So we'll see if that starts to turn and try to move a little bit more southeasterly towards our area. It's not doing that now, I don't think, but we'll have to watch that one. And a lot of folks asking if Ennis is done. Well, if you look at the radar here, we do have another heavy shower. This is not a severe thunderstorm, but we do have another heavy shower moving towards the Ennis area right now. And of course, we do still have this storm in Navarro County that's heading towards Kearns, heading towards Richland Chambers Reservoir here. So that is making its way into really across 45 into the eastern half of Navarro County right now. So that's what to expect there. The Rice area, you may get clipped with some of the gusty winds and small hail with this part of the storm as well. And then, like we said, towards Ennis, you do have another storm headed your way with mostly heavy rain. I don't see really much hail going on there. Farther to the west, we have this storm getting ready to move into Ellis County here. Far southeastern portions of Johnson, but mostly most of the population it's going to hit is going to be in Ellis County here. So getting ready to move. I mean, that could even move between Waxahachie and Midlothian there if it keeps this track. But these storms, they tend to kind of change their track every now and then. So don't look at this and start making assumptions about all the way in Dallas County and where this is going to go. We could continue to see that vary and change. Mostly pea-sized hail, a few nickel-sized hail pellets there. So that's the report out of Corsicana. So mostly small hail, but I will say that in the Corsicana area, it looks like that hail core is holding on. So let's kind of zoom that out a little bit more. And then we'll pause that to kind of get us better oriented again. This is moving due east here. So towards Powell, towards Kearns, towards Goodloe, towards Elm Flats, towards the reservoir here. So that's what we're watching here. That's where this storm is headed. It's crossed over I-45 here. Of course, north of Corsicana, we still have this part of the storm here. Could be some stronger winds with that, but for the most part, that will be moving on east across 45, mostly south of Rice. But I won't be surprised if Rice gets some gustier winds there, maybe. But overall, I think that for the most part, our area that will be moving between Corsicana and Rice there. And okay, dime and nickel size hail in Corsicana. Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like pocket change size hail for the most part. Yeah, and just more talk about graduation. I know there is a lot of concern for graduation in Waxahachie, and it's really hard to call because the storms farther west of the Metroplex, those are the ones that are really going to determine that schedule there for graduation. It's going to be determined by whether we get more storms that develop along the dry line, or do we keep it dry south of the metro. So if we put this in motion here, yeah, you can see those little blips there. That could be the start of something. Anything south of this storm, that will be more likely to affect our area. So we'll have to watch what happens south of that line, southwest of Weatherford, west of Stephenville. Really anywhere in Erath County, I would say any of that would move due east or more southeasterly and probably affect our area here. So I'm just going to leave this on the screen here. And bummer, I see Worth Collecting is streaming Star Wars right now. So kind of bummer, man. I wish I could jump in on that right now. Yeah, you know that I'm a Star Wars fan. Big fan of Worth Collecting. They're on on College Street, actually, in Waxahachie, right off the downtown square. Really, really cool place to go for any of your collectible needs. Thought I would throw in a plug there. And we'll be going to Worth Collecting tomorrow. I can almost guarantee my son has already asked if we're going to make our weekly trip over there. So we will be there tomorrow. But yeah, so the live stream Derek, Fridays at 4. That's when the it's on what am I trying to say here? It's on, whoa, lots of messages coming in. Hang on a second. Get back over to that. It's on Whatnot. So if you haven't seen Whatnot, it's an app where it's basically if I would say if YouTube, it's live, but if YouTube and eBay had a baby, that's Whatnot, and Worth Collecting is there. So you don't even have to be in Waxahachie to visit them. Thank you, Chad, for your Venmo donation. Greatly appreciated there. So, but yeah, Worth Collecting, one of my favorite places in the world. And Travis Brown, the Red Barn in downtown Waxahachie is a great place to shop, and I think Worth Collecting is in the Red Barn as well. So that's another way that you can shop their wonderful collection there. And pea-sized hail between Grandview and Maypearl. So that's this storm moving into Ellis County here. I haven't seen a new warning issued for that yet. We'll get kind of zoomed back in here, and if you're in Hillsboro, another shower popping up there. So nothing severe right now for Hillsboro, but that is making its way in. This is the storm. I don't see a new severe thunderstorm warning issued for this yet, so that could be a sign that we could be looking at some maybe weakening activity there. Again, as I said before, when these things weaken, you can't say, oh, well, we're done for the day, because they can weaken and fall apart fairly fast. So don't be too distracted by that. I would say don't get too confident in that, because you can very easily see these ramp up again, and you see it weaken here, but by the time it's in Ellis County, it could ramp up again. But I don't see a new warning yet for parts of Johnson and Ellis County. If we do, that will probably go up to Midlothian, Red Oak, and Waxahachie here. So we'll see if they issue another warning here for parts of Ellis County. It looks like they're holding off on that at the moment, because that storm might be weakening. We have another one heading towards Ennis here, just popped up here in the last few minutes. Does not look severe at this time. There goes that warning. That has expired, and I don't see a new warning there. Now here's the storm in Navarro County. That's heading right towards Kearns right now. Going to be Kearns, Elm Flats, that area, Powell as well, right on the Richland Chambers Reservoir here. So that's moving to the east. That's probably our most intense storm right now as that continues on. And yeah, so the only severe thunderstorm warning we have in effect right now is this one right here in Navarro County. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch that continues until 10 p.m. Does that mean we're done by 10 p.m.? Not necessarily. But it does mean that we will have to watch at least through that time for more severe weather. And yes, that could possibly include our folks over in Waxahachie for graduation, unfortunately. We're just going to have to watch that and see. It looks like we could be looking at more kind of gusty winds over towards the Rice area. Let's take a look at that. And get that in the kind of in the right spot. So looks like the hail core could be ramping up again as this moves toward Powell. And I want to zoom that out a little more because we're looking at this Ennis storm. Looks like that is ramping up as well. So could be looking at some hail falling in Ennis very soon, as if you hadn't had enough of that today already. This storm towards Rice could have some gusty winds associated with it. And then Powell, looks like we're looking at that hail core beginning to ramp up there as well as that continues to move towards Kearns over there in Goodloe. I want to check in on something really quickly. Yeah, so this storm is essentially just riding up Highway 31 here. So from Corsicana to Powell to Kearns, that hail core right there on 31. And I wanted to make sure I got that right because I get 31 and 34 mixed up all the time. So I had to make sure I had that right. So Corsicana has already moved graduation for tomorrow, probably a wise decision because of the lack of predictability, I would say, for the rest of the evening. And for those of you who may have just joined in, let me just kind of show you a broad look at what we're seeing here. Here's our existing cluster of storms. We have this one moving into Ellis County. That's going to be moving possibly towards Midlothian, may clip Waxahachie there, Ovilla eventually there. Strong storm moving into Ennis. Severe storm east of Corsicana headed towards Powell and Kearns. We're watching what happens west. This is where the dry line is located. We have a disturbance coming through now. We need to see what the dry line does to see if any southerly storms, anything south of this storm here, farther south than that, will probably move into our area. This particular storm, if that intensifies, takes a right turn, then that could be heading into our area later on this evening. It's just about 410 right now, just about 411. Just turned 412 on the monitor here. And so these, we could be looking at those intensifying and moving into our area 4, 5, 6 o'clock tonight. Or, well, it's 4 now, so I would say 6, 7, 8 o'clock is what I've been saying there. So these storms, we do have to watch to see what happens on the dry line. So this is our first round of storms. This was not really expected so much as these over here. These are the ones that I was watching and waiting for. But these storms across our current area right now, only one of those is severe warned. That's the storm that is moving through eastern Navarro County right now, but will be crossing the river into Henderson County here fairly soon. So here's what's going on in our particular area. We'll probably see a radar update here in just a couple of minutes. This storm, the hail core moving towards Kearns right now, right towards Kearns, right along 31. So Powell getting that right now. Kearns is moving in your area now. Elm Flats right there on the Cedar Creek, not Cedar Creek, but let me stop myself and say it right. Richland Chambers Reservoir. I was getting too many words. We're having a traffic jam in my head. So storms moving eastward. This is the only severe warned storm we have right now. The storm over Ennis is intensifying, so don't be surprised to see some small hail there in the Ennis area. I'm not seeing it coming up in the comments yet, but this storm moving into far western Ellis County could be producing some small hail there as well. Looks like that could actually miss Venus, could stay mostly east of Venus, if anything, clip it. There you go. See, there's that storm. That's going to be moving more towards Mount Peak there. So Mount Peak and Midlothian, Waxahachie could get a piece of this as well, and then eventually over towards Ovilla, Oakleaf, Red Oak area on from there. But you can see how these storms, they intensify, they weaken, they intensify, they weaken. So it's very difficult to say whether these storms are going to be producing hail when they move into your area. So that's just kind of the reality of it. I know that's not what people like. People want to be able to plan ahead for these storms, but it's very hard to do that when these storms are varying their direction, varying their intensity all the time here. So that's why I'm often, this storm here, I'm not really going to tell you exactly what it's going to be doing in the Red Oak area. I can tell you it's headed towards Red Oak, but I can't guarantee you that it's going to be producing hail there because it could weaken by that time. Odds are it probably will. So hearing there's hail in parts of Venus right now, so the outskirts of Venus, I would say, as that continues to move on to the north. I'm more concerned about Midlothian right now with this particular storm, and clouds are darkening over the studio right now, probably getting some of the clouds off of this storm, and then of course we have this one approaching as well. And looks like we had a report of dime-sized hail in Ennis. That was about 2:25, so that was earlier today. Yes, so hearing, okay, there is a report of hail in the Ennis area. That is with this storm. So that storm, that small one, starting to produce hail now. More hail going to be west of Waxahachie here, right here in the Auburn area, headed up towards Venus and up towards the Midlothian area. And then, of course, we have a couple of storms in Kaufman County there, and this storm moving into Kearns right now. Moving into Kearns, moving into just south of Rice. So this is the Navarro County storms right now. That hail core moving towards Kearns and Goodloe. Eureka getting a part of that now. Richland Chambers Reservoir here going to be getting some hail as this storm moves through. Rice area, things should be calming down in Rice in just a few minutes as that kind of pulls away. The other thing that we saw just the other night, I know there were people asking me, why are we getting lightning when the storm is so far away, the parent storm? Well, the anvil, the top of the storm that spreads out when it hits the tropopause, that can produce lightning as well. And that's where you get your scenarios where lightning is possible 30 miles outside of a storm. We saw examples of it. It was happening. So it's one of those things that's not just a advisory anymore. It is a thing that has happened. We have seen it and we have experienced it. Let's see. My 3-year-old grandson's view, it's going to rain today. Yeah, it's going to rain and then some. For our particular area today. So this storm moving eastward, it's due east. Kearns, it is moving in there now. The strongest part of that storm moving in very, very shortly. Hail between Venus and Maypearl on 157. So that's where that hail core is located right now. And yes, more concern about Waxahachie graduation. I know that there's it might be an up-to-the-minute update there because, again, if we see more storms west of our area develop along the dry line, those would probably be moving through right around that time, right around dinner time, getting into, unfortunately, graduation time. So it could be a close call. Andrew, I'm not going to make the call, or Andres it is, I'm not going to make the call on whether Waxahachie ISD should cancel graduation. That's not up to me, and I'm not going to give them a direct recommendation. But I'll tell you that storms are very possible during that time. However,
Jensen pooped in his diaper, and he has some poop on his hands.
Okay, sounds like I got to go handle a kid situation again, so I'm sorry, folks. If you'll give me one more moment here, I got to step away, and I'll be back shortly. I am so sorry, folks. I think the kid issues have been handled now, so we can get back to live coverage of all of this now. Moving right in between Waxahachie and Midlothian, we have one hail core there, and I'm fairly certain we will probably see that warned eventually. It may take getting closer to southern Dallas County there, but we still have the warning in place for the storms here in Navarro County. It looks like they've kind of split here, so let's go there first. We'll take each of these storms one at a time. The first storm going right over the lake here. Let me see here. And the phone, I don't know why they put facial recognition on these phones when it won't work. Okay. All right, so sorry about that. So south of Goodloe, here's that first storm. North of Powell, here's the second storm. So really it looks like Kearns is getting a bit of a break here. We had this storm kind of split into two. You see that from time to time. And then just moved through Eureka, right over Richland Chambers Reservoir right now. Probably some small hail there. And then this storm north of Powell, that is going to be another hail producer. That's going to be moving on to the east as well. And so these will both make their way into Henderson County before too terribly long. And that warning, will continue over in Navarro County. And then I've got lots of notifications popping up. So I'm trying to get everything out of the way. The radar went away there for a second. Okay, let's zoom into the storm here in Ellis County. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning. Parts of Ellis and Dallas counties there. So they went ahead and issued that. This storm, most of the hail in parts of northern Waxahachie, and then between Waxahachie and Ferris there. So I would say the Sardis area there, Sardis, Sterrett, and then that's going to be moving towards Red Oak, Oak Leaf, Pecan Hill there too. And okay, hail at Firefly Gardens between Midlothian and Waxahachie, just pea-sized hail reported there. So that's where we are looking at things right now. This will again be moving towards Pecan Hill. You have Red Oak here, Ovilla, Oak Leaf. So that's kind of where that storm is headed right now. And then looking farther out, we have some activity in northern Hill County, southern Johnson County. Not severe at this time. Some spots of heavy rain, but it doesn't look like any severe weather going on here at the present moment. So zooming out farther here, just to show the situation, we're watching this storm south of Weatherford to see if that will take a right turn. That could move that storm towards our area right now. And Giselle, I see your question. Please hold on just a second. We will get there. South of Weatherford, this storm moving eastward here. That right now, whoo, that was very close lightning. I mean, I saw the flash without even seeing the bolt there. That was crazy. Yep, there's the thunder. It took a little longer than I thought it would. But we're watching along the dry line here to see when will those storms, number one, will there be, I would say, more development south of that storm, but also will this storm continue on and take a right turn moving towards our particular area. So lots of folks talking about this Waxahachie storm. So one specific question that was asked several times, I think by the same person, is how long is the storm going to be in Waxahachie? This is moving fairly quickly. So I think Waxahachie should be done with this probably in the next half hour or so. Now, the hail core is the main hail core there. I'm hearing some hail, pea-sized hail near Sagu right now. A few folks reporting that. And then the heaviest of that storm off to, so hail in the Sardis area from Juanita. Thank you for that report. That is that main hail core there. So that's going to be moving again towards the Red Oak and Oak Leaf area. Hail at Baylor, Scott and White, Waxahachie there. So multiple reports of hail in parts of Waxahachie. So that's going to continue to move on to the northeast. So that will move towards Oak Leaf, Pecan Hill, Red Oak here. Mostly missing Midlothian. Midlothian, you may get clipped with this, but for the most part, staying outside of most of Midlothian here. And then that's going to continue on to the northeast. And Jamie, yeah, that's the yellow that you're seeing. So that's the severe thunderstorm warning for Ellis County. So I'm just watching the comments that are coming in here. Rain finally starting here at the studio. I was wondering how far off we were with that. Plenty of lightning in this storm as well, so keep that in mind too. I think that's the lightning bolt we saw just a moment ago here. Yeah, so you're going to see plenty of lightning, have plenty of thunder with this, and you will have some small hail moving through with that storm. I would say, let's say, what are they rating with this here? Okay, so they're advising of golf ball sized hail possible with this storm. You can see the damage threat considerable. So golf ball sized hail, I mean, you can do a fair bit of damage with that. So golf ball sized hail is very possible with this storm as it continues to move on into northern Ellis County. So just keep that in mind. Not seeing any hail at the studio yet, but I can say that we are, let me just check something here real quickly. I'm sorry, I got to check one thing here. Okay, just making sure I'm not missing anything there. So heavy rain here at the studio. More hail possible in this storm. I want to remind you, they're looking, the National Weather Service at least, is advising that golf ball sized hail is possible with this storm. That is very large hail that can do plenty of damage there. So just be advised that golf ball sized hail possible in that particular storm. And we are getting hail at the studio now. Just from what I'm seeing, it looks fairly small. So it looks like we're just getting pea-sized hail at the studio at the moment. And you know what? Let me just make sure of one thing. Charlie, I need you to make sure the dogs are inside. So try to do that very quickly. Make sure they're inside. Don't know if anybody's thought of that yet to let the dogs in the house. May want to do that there. But just it looks like I'm looking out the window here, just some pea-sized hail at the studio right now, but the larger hail is moving up towards the Red Oak area, Oak Leaf, Pecan Hill. Again, golf ball size hail possible in this storm. We could very easily see that out of this storm, and I want you to make sure you understand that because that can do more damage. So most of this moving out of Waxahachie proper here, parts of Waxahachie still going to be getting some heavy rain, but for the most part, most of that storm will be moving out of Waxahachie, I would say, in the next 15 to 20 minutes here. So it won't last too long. Let's see. Okay, golf ball size hail 3 miles west-northwest of Waxahachie, reported by a train spotter. So spotter reported a large quantity of hail falling, a lot of quarters with some golf balls mixed in. So that's going to be this hail core right here. So lots of quarter-sized hail reported with some golf ball-sized hail mixed in. So that's north of Waxahachie here. That's what's going to be right on 35 right now. So moving up towards Red Oak, Oak Leaf, Pecan Hill area. Eventually that'll be moving up towards Lancaster and Wilmer. So this corridor right here for that storm, that's where we're looking at the possibility of seeing some golf ball size hail. We need to go back down to the south here and look at the storm continuing in far eastern Navarro County. Still hanging on there. If it looks to me like maybe this is not moving very quickly. So this is going to continue to move eastward towards Henderson County here. So this is far northeastern Navarro County, moving eventually towards the Toole area. That will move on the north side of Kearns. So here's another pretty decent hail core here, and looks like this is a new warning here, new severe thunderstorm warning. Let's see where they're rating the hail threat here. So ping pong size. So ping pong size hail possible north of Powell, going to be moving towards Kearns, possibly a little bit north of Kearns here, but I would say in Kearns, be prepared for that. But ping pong ball size hail possible with that particular storm. So let me just kind of zoom this out and show the current situation. This is what we're looking at across our area. One severe storm in far northeastern Navarro County, one storm in north central Ellis County, northern Waxahachie headed into the Red Oak area right now, and then just a few smaller storms in northern Hill and southern Johnson counties. We're also looking to the west along the dry line to see what storms develop there. So south of Weatherford, north of Weatherford, and then west of Denton all the way up there. So, and you're asking where's my studio located? We're northeast of Waxahachie. That's our location here, and so. Again, that storm's south of Weatherford. We have to watch the track on that, because if that starts to take a right turn, that would put that storm moving into our particular area, and that would be in the next, hour or two there. So DFW's climatologists came in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, reaching a high of 92 today. So that's part of what kind of helped eliminate the cap here, is warmer temperatures, warmer than expected. Saw a little more sunshine today, and that helped to get these storms through the cap. And then off to the west, we are watching the dry line to see what that does. We could have more development farther to the south there, and that could allow some of those storms to strengthen. I'm going to take a quick drink of water here. If you'll just afford me a quick moment, get hydrated and try to keep up. Looks like just heavy rain right now at the studio. Let's see. Almost 2/10 of an inch already of rain here. All right. So we are continuing to follow these storms. And again, southern Johnson County looks like that could be intensifying. These storms to the west, we are watching the dry line to see what happens there. That could be storms later on in the evening. Storms in northern Ellis County, eastern Navarro County. That's the two severe thunderstorm warnings that we have. Golf ball size hail reported near Shackelford. So that is actually pretty close to where I'm located. So I guess I'm fortunate that I haven't seen that yet. Looks like the only hail that we've seen in my particular area, just judging from, and I'm just watching from a distance, but looks like we're just looking at maybe some pea-sized, dime-sized hail here at the studio. So nothing too intimidating there, but we are hearing of golf ball-sized hail reported in parts of northern Waxahachie, northern Ellis County here. I will tell you, if we start looking at roof damage today, Synergy Roofing has you covered. They've been doing a lot of leak damage. Obviously, all of this rain, right? There's probably a lot of people that found out they had roof damage with all of this rain, finding all the holes in their roof, and so that's going to be, I think, part of the experience here. Yeah. So reports of golf ball size hail near Shackelford. So parts of, I'm hearing hail in Midlothian. I mean, it's got to be the fringes of Midlothian, right? Because Midlothian doesn't actually have anything in that area right now. You might be near Midlothian, but I don't see any hail in Midlothian, at least not Midlothian proper. I want to put this into motion because this storm here in Navarro County doesn't seem to be moving very fast. So it seems like this storm has been kind of just sitting here for a while now. Seems like it's been taking its time, but that is moving. Looks like that will move through Kerens here before moving across the river into Trinidad towards Malakoff and Log Cabin over in Henderson County, and then this storm moving into Henderson County now. Yeah, so Wendy Johnson, rain slowing in North Grove area of Waxahachie. So hail in Midlothian earlier. Okay, I see. So talking about earlier hail in Midlothian, not current conditions. You never know. Some people don't specify, so I'm not really sure what they're looking at there. But storm continues in northern Ellis County. Rio Vista right here in Johnson County. Looks like that storm could be intensifying there too. And I still want to see what the... okay. Yeah, so just kind of sifting through the notifications here. Every time we get a warning, I get a few notifications and those kind of things. It's been a busy day so far. Now, somebody's trying to say there's rotation in the storm near Kerens. Yeah, so it does look like we're seeing that. Now, what's interesting there, let's take a look at that. That's going to be, okay, let's pause this. And yeah, so that's going to be, that's interesting. So let's take a look at that. I appreciate you guys bringing my attention to that. So now near Montford, north of Powell, looks like we could be looking at some rotation there. And this doesn't look very intense right now. So we are continuing to monitor this. This is Navarro County. Here's Mildred, here's Powell, here's Currents. This is what we're looking at. Looks like we are seeing some rotation here. Any of these storms could rotate. So, I mean, it's a possibility that we could be dealing with some intensifying rotation. Let's actually take a look at the kind of the trend here. Yeah, so looks like that has that kind of just started here. So new rotation looking at in the Montfort area towards Buffalo. So looks like that's kind of moving a little bit northward here too. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I have okay, so the most recent scan does look like, yeah, I mean it does look like that's maybe subsiding a little bit. So it looks like we might have had a quick moment of some rotation there, but it's not particularly stable or intense. So we'll keep an eye on that storm. The possibility of some rotation there. It looks like it was just a quick little spot, but not really seeing anything too consistent or persistent really in that storm. Could be some gusty winds over towards southern Johnson County. So if you're getting some gusty winds over towards Rio Vista, that's not too big a surprise. That storm is not severe warned. The only two severe warned storms we have right now are the ones moving through Kearns. That's going to be moving into Henderson County fairly soon. And then this storm, which is putting hail in northern Ellis County here. So just in the Pecan Hill area, moving towards Ferris right now. So that's moving towards Ferris, going to be moving up towards Wilmer there and Patrick, towards the Lancaster Airport. So that's the area that could be impacted by that hail core. And that storm has a history of producing golf ball sized hail. We had the warning that was concerned about that, and then we had confirmation by a storm spotter of golf ball sized hail northwest of Waxahachie earlier today. So we have seen very large hail from that storm. So that definitely has to be taken seriously. We're still watching to our west to see what happens along the dry line. Looks like that storm is weakening here. And looks like that's the dry line. So these storms moving off the dry line now, kind of losing some of that intensity. We are far from done with these storms in this particular area. We still could see more storms throughout the evening. I would say that we may get to see the storms kind of weaken as they move into our area. The atmosphere has been worked over quite a bit. But I'll tell you, we still have dew points in the upper 70s. So there's still probably a lot of instability in our particular area right now. So we're definitely looking at what could be a long evening here. I mean, we've already been doing this for over an hour and a half now, but it's right about 4:45 right now. So I mean, we could still be looking at more storms moving in later tonight. We are going to be watching for some concerns surrounding graduation this evening. I mean, we still could see graduation in Waxahachie and in other places impacted. I believe Italy and Corsicana have already moved their graduation to tomorrow. I know Waxahachie has a few different, they're kind of staggering the start times, or they have at least delayed start times possible. Their start time is 8 o'clock. Their latest start time tonight possibly is 10 o'clock. So it's possible that they could just push the graduation until the storms are no longer in the area, but we don't know how long storms will be in the area until we see those develop. So we're going to have to, unfortunately, deal with more of this kind of wait and see situation before we really know how it could impact graduation going into this evening. Okay, so let's keep going here. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue for eastern Navarro and parts of northern and northeastern Ellis County. So that Ellis County storm, well, let's start in Navarro County here. We were looking at some rotation here. It looks like that rotation has mostly subsided now. It's not very organized, and it looks like it's not able to really hold on to much organization at this point. So I'm not too terribly concerned about rotation. I think the main threat here is going to still be the hail. The biggest hail threat right now north of Kearns. Looks like most of that is pushing east of Kearns now, still impacting parts of the Richland Chambers Reservoir there. But this storm will be moving into Henderson County over the river here fairly soon towards Trinidad, Malakoff, and Log Cabin there. So that will be the track of those storms. And then up into the Ferris area, this storm moving into the Ferris area right now, and could be some gusty winds with this storm too. But this storm has a history of producing golf ball sized hail. So you want to pay attention to that there. That part of that storm moving into parts of Lancaster and Wilmer, the Lancaster airport especially, could get some of that larger hail there. And just following up on trying to knock out more notifications here. Just lots of stuff going on. Okay, so no hail in Red Oak. So yeah, I don't think everybody that saw this storm is going to get hail. Not everybody that saw the storm got hail, but there was some hail here and there. So that storm, this is going to continue to move into the Ferris-Wilmer area now, so right over 45, right there, unfortunately, right around rush hour. So if you're on 45 here and this storm is moving into your area and you're not able to see, you don't want to drive in it, two things. One, don't be afraid to pull over. Just make your way over to the right lane, pull over, get into a safe area. Do not park under an overpass. You do not want to block first responders from getting where they need to go. So do not park under an overpass. But if you do want to pull over, don't be afraid to do that, because it may necessitate that. Now I'm going to take a quick, let's see. Trying to get these, I was given some Reese's to kind of snack on here, so trying to get those open. We were on 35 in Red Oak when the hail started. It was kind of crazy. Yeah, hail on a highway is tough. So, you have to be careful with that. And I know some people, they want to just, push through it and not, they're afraid of being embarrassed by pulling over. Something I've really been told by people. You can't be embarrassed by that. Safety is not embarrassing, guys. You got to really. And if somebody's laughing at you over that, trust me, their opinion doesn't matter anymore anyway. And Abby just joined in, wondering what we're going to see after this. Well, we could easily see more storms after this. We're watching farther to the west along the dry line to see what develops there. Okay, so in the Rio Vista area, we need to go to the west, because we are seeing, at least I'm seeing, what could be a bit of a downburst in that area. So this is south, and I don't know what it is. Cleburne will not come up on this map. I have tried, and the way this map works is the closer you get to, the more you zoom in, normally more towns pop up. I can't get Cleburne to come up here for anything. I don't know why. So as we look at Johnson County here, I just want to kind of point out, this storm is moving north, so it's moving into Cleburne, moving towards Keene and Alvarado there. So this storm, it looks like we are getting a push of some gusty winds out of this storm. Could be a bit of a downburst. And so that is a storm that we need to watch there. So don't be surprised if you're getting some gusty winds as this storm moves into the Cleburne and Keene and Alvarado areas right now. Does not look like rotation. This is more straight line winds. So just be prepared for that as that storm moves in. Could be some gusty winds in the Ferris area too. Let's get back over to that storm. We should get a radar update here pretty quickly to see what the latest is on that storm. Dime-size hail in Ferris reported, and then so the dime-size hail reported in the Ferris area, and that's what we're seeing here. Trying to look, so here comes the update on the winds. I just want to kind of see what that does. Okay, yeah, I think we're seeing. We're going to have to let's take a look at the storm over in Keene, over in Johnson County. Okay, I'm just looking at something really quickly. Because that particular storm, what we're seeing here, and let's go ahead and turn on the velocity viewer here in Johnson County. What we're seeing here is increasing wind speeds. Now, normally the red, what you see here is you see the red and the green. You'll have a lot of people, especially a lot of people on Twitter, will immediately say that this is rotation. The thing is, though, what you're going to start to see here, and at least what I can tell, is the radar is due north of this location. So these are winds moving towards the radar, these winds are moving away. And so you would think these winds are moving this direction. That's probably a downburst, because what's happening is the downburst is happening here, and then the winds spread out in all directions. So I think we're looking at evidence of a downburst here. So in Oak Hill and Sand Flat up towards Keene, if you see a sudden rush of winds, most likely you're looking at a downburst here. I could be wrong, but it stands to reason at this point that those winds are moving down southward away from the radar, and then the green is moving towards the radar. That's kind of how it works. So if anything, the wind risk is going to be the highest with this particular storm that is moving through parts of Johnson County here. Now, that is moving mostly on, it looks like the east side of Cleburne here. Here's Cleburne, even though it won't come up on the map here for whatever reason. But this storm moving mostly east of Cleburne here towards Oak Hill and Sand Flat. So definitely looking at the possibility of a downburst or microburst there, a very sudden increase in winds. And so this storm is not severe warned at this time, but be prepared for that over the next several minutes here. Might have to give you the cat because I don't know where I'm going to put this. I don't know where he's going to not
You want me to just put it in the fridge?
get into it. Well, here.
Come on, cat.
Okay, I've got to figure out where to set where to set food here. I've got a very full desk. Okay, we'll have to work on that later here. Not sure when. Looks like it's going to be a long evening, but we'll get there eventually. So here's the storm that I'm watching, and mostly a wind risk with this storm. It's not severe right now, but I will say that we are definitely looking at increasing wind speeds there. We've been looking at the possibility of a downburst or a microburst with that storm. And the other storms, though, are mostly hail risks right now. So back in kind of the eastern side of our area, this is the storm, that hail core just moving into parts of southeastern Dallas County, moving out of Ellis County there, but still some heavy rain, possibly some hail from Ferris on down towards Palmer there. And then in western Navarro County, this storm just hanging on. It just seems like it's slowing down to me, because it seems like every radar update we get, it's still near currents. So this particular storm, it feels like it's slowing down here, or something's happening, because it's just been, this hail core has been in the currents area for several scans here. So unfortunately, we could be looking at some flooding issues here. If this storm is just hanging around, there could be a flood issue in addition to the possible hail there. So just be aware of that there could be a bit of a flooding concern there if that storm continues to kind of hang around. So we're definitely looking at wind speeds increasing in the Keene area. And Matt, do I still have you? Okay, so let's definitely keep an eye on, well, I couldn't tell because my phone's been kind of all over the place. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that Keene storm, because if we go back to the Keene storm here, we are seeing that kind of a tail hanging off there, and I can't say right off the bat that we're looking at a hook echo or anything like that here. But sometimes these downbursts, you can have some rotation come out of that. And if we go back to the velocity, I want to show you what we're seeing here. More increasing wind speeds. And again, what we were talking about, and it almost looks like this is just kind of a wave that's moving away now, but these are moving towards the radar, and you can see the radar up here. So these are moving towards the radar to the north. These are moving south. So the winds presumably are moving this way, but we'll have to watch that because at times those increasing winds, they can, we can take we can get some rotation out of that. So we'll watch that very closely to see what happens there. Just taking another broad look here are two severe storms, one moving into Dallas and Kaufman County here, moving out of Ellis County fairly soon. And then this storm finally giving Kearns a break. It seems like that storm's been just kind of hanging around eastern Navarro County for a long time here. This storm increasing in intensity here in Johnson County. That's going to be heading towards Venus, towards Midlothian here, Alvarado. Affecting the eastern portions of Cleburne there. I get those mixed up all the time. And Keene there. So farther to the west, this is where we're watching along that dry line to see what storms develop, where they go. So that will be potentially our second round. That could be the storms that really affect graduation ceremonies and those kind of things tonight. So we will have to watch that and see how that goes. The storm in Johnson County is not severe warned here, but I am watching the velocity to see what the winds are doing in that storm, because we have seen increasing wind speeds in a certain part of that storm. Now, as we mentioned, it does look like we are dealing with a downburst or a microburst, that kind of thing, where the winds are spreading out instead of rotating. But that can turn into rotation, especially when it's kind of on the edge of a storm here. So we will watch that, and if we start to see that rotation, we will definitely bring that information to you. Liberty Grace asking, when does it stop raining in Waxahachie? I mean, we could still see more development here. So it's hard to say exactly when we're completely done in really any location, because these storms moved out and we had another one blow up. So we could have more storms develop here to the southwest and move through. And then, like I said, we will have to watch what happens along the dry line there. So nobody's really out of the woods at this point. Hill County, you're getting a bit of a break. Navarro County, finally a break for you. But Ellis County and Johnson County do still have this storm, which does look to be intensifying here. So we'll have to kind of watch that storm to see what that does. We'll put this into motion here. And again, you can see this storm moving northeast. New warning issued for that, looks like, over Kaufman County and Rockwall County there. So that storm continuing to move out. This storm is finally moving away from the Kearns area, moving across the river here. So that's moving into Henderson County. Really, the main storm we have to watch here is in Johnson County at this point. So let's just kind of zoom back in on that storm. This storm moving northeast, so moving towards Alvarado, towards Venus, towards Midlothian. This storm right here, probably producing at least some hail at this point. And that was just a couple minutes ago. So getting a report of quarter-sized hail south of Midlothian. That was about half an hour ago. So that would have been this other storm. So that would have been the old storm. So this new one here looks like we are getting an increasing hail threat there. Watching the velocity to see what this next scan looks like. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, looks like the winds are subsiding. You'll still get some gusty winds moving towards Alvarado. But I'm still watching that little hook there. At the moment, nothing to really substantiate that. So the good news is that, yeah, you're seeing a hook there, but it doesn't look like we have the winds to really contend with as far as inbound, outbound. So for the moment, looking better there, but there is a hail cord coming out of that now. So it's better in one way, not quite so good in another. So I won't be surprised if in the next several minutes, if that continues to intensify, if we see a new warning issued, a new severe thunderstorm warning, including Alvarado, Venus, Midlothian, probably Mansfield there. So that will be the next storm that we are watching. me get this kind of broadened out here so I can see. All right, so let's put that back into motion here. So this is the new storm we're watching. The other two storms are moving out of our area, so we need to focus our attention here in eastern Johnson County, western Ellis County. So Maypearl, you're going to start feeling this fairly soon. Venus, you're going to start feeling it too. Alvarado, moving, going to kind of move across 67 here. Could move towards Midlothian and Mansfield. That particular area, that's where we're seeing this next storm moving that way. And again, if we look at the radar here, so we're starting to see new development here out on the dry line. Let's put that into motion and study that for a second. We've seen that storm kind of struggle here, but it looks like we're seeing some new life in these storms along the dry line. So far, nothing too far south, but it does look like we could see more development there. These are the storms that we will have to watch for later in the evening time. That's where we're going to be paying very close attention to see what that does. I'm still concerned that we could see some interference with those graduation events tonight, but we really don't know until we get closer to that. So two things we're watching here. For one, all these storms are moving out of our area, so we can kind of leave those behind. There's this storm moving through Johnson and Ellis counties. I'm watching for a warning to be issued here. And then the new storm south of Weatherford, that one, and then one over towards the far northwestern corner of Hood County, right there near Granbury. So this will be kind of the next thing to watch as far as what will impact our area. Those storms not really moving too quickly here. Okay, so getting reports that the report of golf ball size hail near Shackelford wasn't quite that big. So I can confirm that with just kind of some multiple, just different kind of corroboration. So, all right, so thank you so much for that report. Yeah, so, and I was a little skeptical of that report, but I knew that was kind of the risk there. But probably closer to quarter, half dollar size hail there. So just multiple pictures taken of those kind of things. You know, it could be some quarter size hail. Might have been some half dollar mixed in there. But hearing that it was not quite golf ball size hail near Shackelford there, and that's in Waxahachie. So south of Alvarado, this is the next storm we're watching here. This is Johnson County, Ellis County behind me. So this is the next storm we're watching. This little kind of almost star-shaped hail core here. Okay, so update from all right, so an update from Waxahachie ISD about 15 minutes ago. The Waxahachie ISD graduation, Waxahachie High School graduation, as of now we are expecting the ceremony to take place at 8 p.m. The seeds at Lumpkins will be wet, so bring towels. Yeah, I mean they're looking at continuing on the ceremonies tonight, but you will need to bring your own towel to make sure you're not sitting on water. So that's that's advice from them. From Waxahachie ISD. So they're persistent there. They're determined to make that happen. Here goes. So here's that new warning I was waiting for. So new severe thunderstorm warning. They've really made this a broad one. They are looking at Venus, Midlothian, Red Oak Leaf, Ferris, Ennis, and Waxahachie all included in this warning. Man, that is a very... and Sunny, yeah, I don't know why Cleburne won't come up on the map. No clue. I don't know why they won't... it won't come up there. I noticed that a couple of days ago, and I haven't been able to fix it since. So, not too sure what's going on there. But this storm, right here in Johnson County, going to be moving towards Ellis County, a very broad, I mean, you can see how broad that is. New severe thunderstorm warning, including Hood County. So we're starting to kind of meet things together here. So these storms are, I assume, part of the disturbance that was coming through. That's what created our first round of storms. And then farther back now, we have a new severe thunderstorm warning for Hood and Parker County for the storms along the dry line. So we are moving right along there. And we'll continue to monitor all of this. Yeah, the thing is, Hill and Navarro counties finally getting a break here. So if you're in Hill and Navarro counties, take a breather, take a break, enjoy a little bit of relaxation there, because we may have another long night coming if that dry line continues to light up. Yeah, so Blooming Grove is done for a while. To Kim, to answer your question. The storm near Weatherford looks like that's moving to the east, but they are opening that up for a right turn there. So looks like that particular storm, looks like that could be rotating out towards Lai Pan. A little tougher to see out that way, but we'll continue to watch and see if that storm will move our way. But this storm here, this is the next storm to impact parts of Johnson and Ellis counties here. This is, let's see here. What are we looking at? Well, I got to get out of the way first. So the warning is until 6 p.m. That's for parts of Ellis, a little bit of Hill County, mostly Ellis and Johnson counties here. Quarter-sized hail is the primary risk, and that storm is moving east at 35 miles per hour. So that's this storm here. Excuse me, we are watching that backside there where we have that hook. No rotation that I can see at the moment. So not too concerned about that for the moment. But we'll continue to see that move northeastward. I'm a little more concerned about the Midlothian area and Venus and Alvarado for the hail core there. This warning, this is a very broad warning. I mean, they're even including Ennis in this one. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think at this point, they're assuming that could take a right turn. So I think they're trying to be prepared for any scenario here. They could trim this warning back. I'm surprised they haven't yet, but I think they're probably pretty busy juggling all these warnings. So I imagine we'll see the first warning kind of get tossed away here, and then we'll see what they do eventually after that. So this is the storm that was just warned, just got that fresh severe thunderstorm warning there. Yeah, so another question about, okay, so the warning for Henderson and Navarro County, that severe thunderstorm warning has been canceled. And yeah, as far as the graduation, Waxahachie ISD publishing that they are moving forward with that at this point. They still expect to go at 8. I think really with the way that WISD's been handling this, it's going to take a storm bearing down for them to stop it. So they are determined to press forward there. And so, yeah, that's kind of where things stand right now, is they are determined to move forward with that. So, you know, best of luck to them, but we'll see what happens with these other storms that are moving along the dry line. But this storm currently going to bring at least more rain to Waxahachie. Again, they've made this a very broad warning. I think they're just assuming that this could take a right turn and move towards Ennis. That's not the situation right now. Right now, the storm continues to the northeast. So Midlothian, Red Oak, Oak Leaf, Pecan Hill, Ovilla. Second round, another storm moving through. So that's moving into the Venus area right now, moving through Maypearl. Waxahachie will probably get at least a part of this storm. And then so far, and I say so far because we could easily see more as we go. So a couple of things here. So far, this storm continuing to the northeast, but that could take a right turn. That's why they've made this warning so broad on the end here. And then, yeah, now we're seeing more activity developing along the dry line to our west. So this will be the round of storms we will be watching for later tonight. 7, 8, 9 o'clock here. So that's going to be what's moving in possibly around the time of graduation ceremonies here in Waxahachie. So we'll continue to monitor this here. WISD will continue to monitor as well. I know at least 1 or 2 folks over there will be watching my reports. We'll see what happens. But, I mean, I don't make those decisions. So you can't, you can't tell me what to tell them or whatever. I'm not gonna, not gonna tell them what to do or what not to do. But hey, I know a few of the folks over there watch my reports, so we'll keep them updated for sure, and make sure they're aware of what's going on so they can make the best decision possible. But northwest of Granbury here, now they finally cut that warning back. Northwest of Granbury, that's where we're watching our storms for later tonight. And we will be watching very closely to see what happens in that range. And then right here in eastern Johnson County, that's moving up towards Midlothian area. So let me check a couple of notifications that just came in, trying to kind of keep up with everything. Okay, yeah, so they canceled that warning. Let's see here. All right, I'm just checking a few things, checking some messages that are coming in. Okay, yeah, and Cindy, I mean, it's hard to say exactly when those storms are going to be moving in. And Brittany, I don't know what location you're talking about. You're asking if there's any more hail today. That kind of partially depends on your location. Of course, again, like I've been saying, these storms along the dry line, we don't know exactly where those are going yet. So we could see more hail across the area, but I don't know exactly what location you're talking about there. So this is our next storm for our particular area here. So looks like most of this will go west of Waxahachie. Let's kind of zoom in on this a little more so I can give you a better idea. So this will stay west of Waxahachie for the most part here, moving more towards Venus, Midlothian, Red Oak. That's kind of the corridor that I'm mostly concerned about at this point. And as I've been saying, if you're looking at this, yeah, I've been watching that. I don't see any rotation at this time. So I don't think we really have to be too concerned about any kind of hooks or circulations or anything like that. So if you're seeing that, don't let that get you too nervous. We're not seeing any kind of rotation on the velocity view right now, but this storm, increasing in intensity, could be seeing some quarter-size hail in that storm at some point. It looks right now like it's maybe subsided a little bit, but as I've said before, we see these storms, they increase in intensity, they kind of swell, and then they wane, and then they swell, and then they wane. They kind of go back and forth, and so it's not too big a surprise to see that kind of thing happening there. The storm is back along the dry line, definitely seeing some possible signs of rotation there, so those storms will have to be watched. And this storm, it does look like it's at least going to bring some heavy rain to Waxahachie here. It looks like it's kind of building a little bit eastward. And then the meat of this storm, the most intense part of the storm, heading towards Venus and Midlothian there, possibly northern Waxahachie up into Red Oak. Okay, National Weather Service reiterating that hail is the highest risk here. That's pretty well been the situation most of the day. That we've mostly been looking at a hail risk there. So I will say that farther to the west, we are looking at some possible rotation near Lipan. That's farther away though. That's farther away from the radar. And so it may be kind of harder to see that. And that's not necessarily in our area, but we will be watching these storms to see if those continue to try to move our way, but they're not moving very quickly. You can see that they're not displacing very fast. So really, I would be more concerned in the short term about flooding north of Granbury, but we'll see if that storm continues to make its way towards Johnson County here. That could pose an issue for our particular area later this evening. We're getting right up to 5:15 here, and again, 7, 8, 9 o'clock could be when we're dealing with those dry line storms around Waxahachie. So that could very well interfere with those graduation ceremonies, but we don't know yet. It is too early to say, and unfortunately we're kind of in a wait and see period there. For the short term, this is the storm we're looking at. And it's a blessing that graduation is not starting now, because there would be more rain and lightning and thunder headed towards Waxahachie for that for the next short term. So this warning looks like the storm is trying to build east a little bit, so that could be part of the reason they kind of made this warning so broad. But the strongest part of the storm moving towards Venus right now. That's where the primary risk is for the moment. Okay, just trying to get more kind of notifications off here. I have to restart a couple of things. I think the phone was having a hard time keeping up. So many things opening. Okay, and Sherry, thank you so much for the donation through the Cash App. That is greatly appreciated there. So this is our main storm, and we are watching a quickly growing storm to the northwest that could be our next storm in this particular area. These, I think, are probably coming off of the disturbance that we had go through, but these are coming off the dry line. These are the storms that will be more of an evening concern for our particular area. Doug Mosley saying it's not too bad there in Alvarado. So I don't know what that means, but he's not giving any specifics. But there could be hail in this particular storm. We're still seeing maybe some gusty winds, not anything too crazy there, but could be some gusty winds in the Alvarado area heading towards Venus, towards Midlothian. And this severe thunderstorm warning goes, I believe, until 6 p.m. Yeah, so about 6 p.m. for that. Okay, and that warning over towards the Arklatex, so farther to the northwest. So these are the two storms that I'm watching right now. That other storm, that's all the way in Kaufman County out of our area, so we have to look forward here, or really look behind us for the most part, in terms of that storm. So that one, we are watching to see how that will affect our area, and we will be watching this storm as that continues on to the east, not moving too terribly quickly. So eastern Johnson County might be looking at some flooding issues there, western Ellis County as well. So if that, you're getting, I'll say it this way, there's plenty of downburst, no downburst right now, but downpours, I should say, in this storm, and that's going to make its way into parts of northwestern Ellis County fairly soon, northeastern Johnson County. So if you're in a flood-prone area, anywhere in front of that storm, I would just maybe be prepared for that, because there's a lot of rain and it doesn't seem to be moving too terribly quickly out there. And just got the update here, continuing to get closer to Venus there. I would say it's going to be moving into Venus here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Stephen, thank you so much for your Venmo donation. Greatly appreciated. So, yeah, more gusty winds. Look like the winds could be picking up in that storm, headed towards Venus right now. So don't be shocked if you continue to see increasing winds for those storms headed towards the Venus area, heading into later on into Midlothian. So we could be looking at that storm picking up steam a little bit there as well. And the storm near Lipan, north of Granbury, that is getting closer to Johnson County here, so that we could see a new warning there fairly soon. And we're just going to keep on rolling here. Been, over a couple of hours here that we've been covering these storms, and these definitely started earlier. I expected to just now be getting started. Really, I only expected the storms ahead of the dry line. I didn't have very much expectation, not this much, for these storms, in our immediate area earlier today. Okay, so hearing that there's strong winds in Maypearl, so possibly, I'm seeing that now. It looks like there could be a little bit of a downburst, microburst possibly in the Maypearl area. So it could be some strong winds there that are going on. I'm just kind of reading some comments here. I know Chris Andrade is trying to got a bit of a message there. Strong winds in Maypearl. So yeah, it looks like we've got a bit of a microburst that's hit the Maypearl area. So just be prepared for that. Those happen very suddenly. And so I do see that. Looks like on the north side of Maypearl there. So strong winds in the Maypearl area. You can see some of the heavier precipitation there. Sometimes that pink will correlate with a downburst because it's a very big push. The winds go down before they go out. So that's going to make that precipitation happen very, very fast and pick up very, very fast. Very intense winds. Looks like a downburst or microburst going on in the Maypearl area right now. So be prepared for that. Outside of that area, that may bring more outflow winds as that spreads out. So southern Midlothian could see some outflow winds fairly soon. Waxahachie, that area too. Thank you, Michael, for the donation through the Venmo. Greatly appreciated. So I think Martin, are you asking about Georgia? So let me see there. Yeah, I think if you're asking about Georgia, that's a little bit outside of my area. I don't cover Georgia. I cover north central Texas. In fact, I just cover 4 counties in Texas, so not a very big area, and definitely not Georgia. Patsy, the seats might be wet for Waxahachie graduation. I would say it's pretty likely that you need to bring a towel with you if you are going out to graduation tonight. So might be a little bit of a rough go of that if you are indeed heading out to Lumpkins Memorial Stadium for the graduation ceremonies tonight. And again, I know a lot of people are asking if is it going to impact graduation? I mean, it could. It's hard to say now. It depends on what the storm farther to the northwest does. And when I talk about the storm to the northwest, I'm talking about this one out towards Lipan, north of Granbury. We'll see if that continues on to the east here, possibly to the southeast. That could be moving into Johnson County fairly soon. It hasn't moved much. Put this in motion. It hasn't moved much at all. And so, we'll see if that continues to mostly stay stationary or what actually happens there. And we've already seen one storm kind of lose its intensity there. So it's possible that the dry line, I don't believe the dry line is getting any closer to our area. So it's possible that they're blowing up on the dry line, and then as they get away from it, they're weakening. But we'll see what happens. I know there's one storm up in Denton County there. Looks like that is making its own way, but this storm over here, we'll have to watch and see what that does. Getting into the Ellis County storm, I want to see what this update on the velocity shows. Yeah, so some more gusty winds possible as this storm gets closer to Venus here. Again, this one also seems to not really be moving fairly quickly. Bo Collins, do you accept PayPal donations or just Venmo? I do think we have the PayPal information up here. We'll see if we can get that posted up there. Heavy rain moving into Waxahachie here, and looks like most of the hail should stay out. There could be some very small hail there. And Sherry, we'll get back to that Hood County storm here in just a moment. But could be some hail heading towards Venus right now. Hail and gusty winds with that storm. We had the report earlier of what was probably a microburst over in Maypearl, just a quick push of some stronger winds, but doesn't look, just based on velocity like that, did too terribly much. So I think, I don't think we have really too much to be concerned about there. The storm near Lipan, there looks like there could be a little bit of rotation trying to go on there, but not much. Shirley, this is current time. This is today. we are live. You can see right below me here. We have the time and date. So yeah, this is and if it doesn't show the current time or at least close to it, you may have to push the live button. It'll say live kind of at the bottom, left-hand corner. Sometimes you have to click that or just drag the progress bar or something to make sure that you're watching live. So just make sure that this clock here, right below the logo, is pretty close to current. So that way you can make sure you're watching, live coverage. Because unless you're watching an earlier video or something, you're watching the current time. It is May 24th at 5:24 p.m. You need to check that. So that's where we are with that. The PayPal still says Ellis County weather. Haven't updated that yet, but a little bit of a retro branding there, huh? So moving into Waxahachie, heavy rain, but does not look like that is particularly intense. Could be some small hail there on the west side of Waxahachie, probably moving across 1446 there. They've kind of trimmed this severe thunderstorm warning back, but the heaviest of this does still look to be moving towards Venus there. So Venus, Alvarado, Midlothian area. So that's where the strongest part of that storm is going to be headed. Looks like it will stay out of Mansfield, or at least the severe part of that storm will. Mansfield might get some rain out of that, but nothing too terribly intense is expected. I got an eye itch and I can't get rid of it, so sorry about that. Had some questions about the storm in Hood County. We will be watching this storm. It's not moving very much at this point. It looks like it's trying to move southeasterly here, so probably more of a Johnson County, Hill County deal. If and when it gets moving, like I say, right now it's not moving much. Really more of a flooding issue there, but it is severe warned, and we'll see what that tells us. So quarter-size hail expected with that storm, and yeah, so it looks like it's mostly a hail threat with that particular storm as well. Going out a little further here, there are storms north of Fort Worth. That's one of the more intense rounds, and again, all of this is all moving off of the dry line. This has kind of been the disturbance that was passing through, so this is really the last storm that I see with that. There's nothing farther south, but really our next storm that we'll be watching is going to be this one south of Weatherford, north of Granbury. That will be the next storm to impact our particular area. If anything, that will probably be the storm that might threaten some graduation ceremonies here. Now, I'll also say we see this little blip just outside of Stephenville, and so that could turn into a storm eventually. We'll have to watch that and just kind of keep an eye on it. But for Waxahachie here, hearing that there's some penny-sized hail south of Waxahachie, I would say that's probably more prevalent, going to have dime or pea-sized hail here. But there is some hail there in parts of Waxahachie, and there towards Venus too. That's probably going to be the more intense part of this storm. I think we just got some, I think that was thunder. I'm not sure. Watching velocity to see what that update says here. And let's see. Get a little more zoomed in. Yeah, so just not much movement on that storm north of Granbury. So I'm curious to see what that does. That may just kind of hang out there and may kind of rain itself out all in one location. This storm moving into Venus now, heading right towards Midlothian. Looks like another part of that moving into Waxahachie now. Nothing at the studio yet, but we'll probably start to see that. Well, it looks like we got some rain falling here at the studio. Might get some hail out of that, but we'll watch and see. And man, the notifications are just crazy tonight. Sprinkles and thunder in Midlothian. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be intensifying in Midlothian fairly soon. So that could become a more volatile situation. What I'll tell you is the way this is going to play out over the next few hours here, or the next, I would say the next several minutes, really not even a few hours, is that we're going to see these storms move into eventually parts of southeastern Tarrant County, southwestern Dallas County. Once this moves out of that area, then we'll be watching to see what happens to our west. So that's kind of looking down range here, down the timeline. Once this storm moves out, that will probably be it for the storms to our south. That will move out, and then all eyes will turn west as we watch to see what happens with the storms out along the dry line, or ahead of it, really. And thank you, Douglas, for your Cash App donation. That is greatly appreciated there. Thank you so much. So we're still watching this storm. It is severe warned. That severe thunderstorm warning goes for about another half hour here. But that storm really kind of splitting into two here. So one storm moving towards Venus, and then the other storm moving through Waxahachie. So heavy rain here, could be some small hail in that Waxahachie storm. We've gotten a report or two of that. Nothing at the studio yet, but that doesn't mean that can't change fairly quickly. So I'll be watching out the window here to see if we get any hail there. It looks like just large raindrops for now. So not seeing any hail with that storm quite yet. So that's where we're at right now, folks. Just the one storm in parts of Ellis and Johnson counties, and then watching this storm to the west and watching to see if more storms develop to the west to kind of see what the rest of our evening will look like. Personally, I'm kind of hoping that this will move north, and then maybe we'll get a little bit of a lull here, giving you a chance to maybe eat some dinner if things allow it, because that looks really good. Some chicken, potatoes, and corn there waiting for me. That looks really, really good. So I'm kind of hoping we get a bit of a break in between these rounds of storms. Really hoping we get a break because that looks fantastic. I'm watching for an update on the velocity view here, see what that Lipan storm is doing, and then see if we have more gusty winds, probably some gusty winds at least in that Venus storm here. So I wouldn't be surprised there. It looks like the winds are fairly relaxed in Waxahachie. I'm not seeing any kind of intense winds or anything here at the studio. So looks like the stronger winds are going to be towards the Venus area, moving towards Midlothian. In that storm, I would say wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour, not anything too terribly intense. And then the storm north of Granbury there, that will be the next storm to impact our area if indeed we do see that. Looks like we could be seeing that little storm intensifying near Keene as well. So could be some, it looks like there's some increasing lightning there. But not seeing anything aside from that. Let's take a look at hail cores here just briefly. Look at the VIL here. And so yeah, it looks like we're looking at the main hail core south of Venus. That's going to continue to move towards the Midlothian area there. Some hail possible east of Keene, and then some hail possible south of Waxahachie. This is an older image here though. So just keep that in mind. It's about 5 minutes old, so not too terribly old. But that's going to be where the meat of the hail is, just south of Venus there. Yeah, so Brittany, pea-sized hail reported there in the Keene area. And then, I mean, that storm in the Lipan area, northwest of Granbury, is just sitting there. Just not going anywhere at all. So a little bit of a hail core there, northwest of Granbury, but not too terribly much there. Let's get this back to reflectivity. But yeah, we're watching this storm. This is the only one in our particular area right now that bringing heavy rain to Waxahachie right now, the heaviest of that storm in the Venus area, continuing to move towards Midlothian. Looks like this one's kind of slowing down as well. And then as far as that is concerned, we'll do another kind of wide view. That's it. And we'll get this, so let me put this in motion for you here. This is basically it for our area. And the storm to the west, of our area, north of Granbury, it's basically stationary at this point. So that doesn't look to be much of an issue here. And then gusty winds. So Diana Hall saying the wind with the storm in Venus was insane. So, I mean, again, you could be looking at 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts with that particular storm in the Venus area. That's going to be heading up towards Midlothian. And then nothing else to the south. So Hill County, Navarro County, really nothing going on. Johnson County there around Keene, you have some intense storms there towards Venus and Midlothian area. That's where we have the hardest part of that particular storm. And then in Waxahachie, just some heavy rain kind of pushing off of that storm there. So that's about all we got, folks. Things are kind of ramping down a little bit here. I have a feeling that things may ramp down before we see the dry line maybe ramp up a little bit. Again, I'm curious to see if that storm near Granbury, if that picks up steam at all. It's been sitting right around Lipan. The strongest part of that storm been really sitting on Lipan for a while. We could see more of a flood threat there with that storm. Hearing a lot of lightning in western Waxahachie by Scarborough Renaissance Festival. So a lot of lightning and heavy rain in Waxahachie right now. Not a particularly intense storm. Just about 1/4 of an inch of rain in the bucket here at Waxahachie, here at the studio. And then near Venus, that's going to be the strongest part of this storm. That's going to be your hail core. And where your gusty winds are, that's going to be moving towards Midlothian here as well. And but I will say that we're not really I'm not seeing any kind of rotation at the moment with this storm in far eastern Johnson County, western Ellis County. So not really seeing any signs of much of a tornado threat here, at least at the moment. So we'll continue to watch it, of course. Any of these storms you have to keep an eye on, but for the moment, Not really seeing any kind of concern with that. So that warning, that severe thunderstorm warning, continues for about another 25 minutes here. And man, it seems like these storms have lost a lot of their speed. They're not moving very much. And that's where we start to have to talk about the flood threat. So where those storms are moving slower, that's where we're going to see the flooding issues come in. So we could be looking at a flood threat materializing here in western Ellis County, eastern Johnson County, and then farther over into Hood County, where that storm is moving very slow. I would say it's barely really even moving at all. And you're asking if there's lightning in Midlothian. You can see the lightning indicators here. So there's a couple of them that are moving towards Midlothian. The heaviest part of the storm is moving to Midlothian. And so there will be more lightning with the strongest part of that storm as it moves in. And then, yeah, I mean, we're going to see that picking up in Midlothian fairly soon. And Amy, you're asking, that's my cousin Amy with WISD, asking what it looks like for graduation. At this point, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say exactly what it's going to look like at 8 o'clock. We're watching this storm, which is moving very slow. I will say this particular storm should be out of here by 8 o'clock and should be irrelevant by then. But really what matters as far as the 8 o'clock forecast is the storms farther to the west. We're watching this storm in northern Hood County. That one could be the one that interferes with graduation if it makes it here. Now, whether it makes it here or not, that's an open question. We have to watch and see. It's really not moving much at this point. If it continues to move our way, that could bring up a question of maybe delaying some graduation ceremonies. But if we have more development out here, that too could interfere. So we're kind of in a wait and see period right now. I know that's the worst possible place to be when you're trying to plan something, but we are a bit in a wait and see situation to see how the dry line, because these storms are part of a disturbance come in, these storms are part of the dry line and kicked off by that. So it kind of depends on what happens with that dry line as that, at this point, looks to have kind of stalled farther west. So that could mean these storms haven't been moving much, so it could mean that it doesn't make it here. Or we could see it get a little bit more intensity and a little more speed and could move in. So it's an open question. Not sure really what 8 o'clock is going to look like in Waxahachie. There's a few variables that we are following there. But we will be watching it. We will be covering it as always. And of course, South Metro Weather will continue to keep everyone advised of what's happening in this area. But of course, you can text me too, and I'll keep you updated that way too. But for right now, this is the storm that we're watching in our particular area. I would say that anywhere east of Waxahachie, this severe thunderstorm warning probably doesn't need to be still there. They can probably trim that away. And I mean, unless they may be waiting for this part of the storm to intensify. That's possible. So I would say if you're east of Waxahachie, there's no severe weather threat at this point, but it just kind of depends on if that breaks off and intensifies. The strongest part of the storm is in Venus right now, and been hearing reports of some stronger winds there. That's heading right for Midlothian. So could be some pocket change hail coming out of that storm, could be dime, nickel size, could be an isolated, quarter-sized hail, hailstone there, but I'm not expecting a whole lot there. So not really thinking that we're going to see anything too terribly catastrophic there. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're waiting to see what this storm in northern Hood County does. It hasn't moved much. You can see it's blowing, it's kind of building eastward, but the core of that storm back towards Lipan, not moving much. And so it's been a very slow mover. We'll see what that thing does if it doesn't, in fact, make its way eastward. Could impact Johnson and parts of Ellis County later tonight. But for the moment, it's not doing much. This storm in parts of Ellis and Johnson counties finally starting to move to the northwest, but I'm hearing a lot of thunder here in Waxahachie, so we could see that storm intensifying here fairly quickly, and that could end up becoming severe as it continues on. Nicole hearing a report of hail in Midlothian, so that hail core is moving that way. And All right, so we're going to go get a measurement of hail from, let's see, from Midlothian there. And the Storm Prediction Center putting out a bulletin here. I want to check this out because I want to see what they mentioned for North Texas, because I just feel like there's just a big question mark right now. Yeah, I'm going to have to wait a few minutes for that to come up. But I feel like there's a big question mark right now of how the storms along the dry line are going to impact our area. Okay, so this storm in particular, I'm watching this one and it's just not moving much. So it's a big question mark right now whether this one's even going to make it into our area. And if it does it intensify? Does it weaken because we've had so many storms already? That's why I keep saying that 8 o'clock, which is when Waxahachie's graduation is supposed to begin, there's a bit of a question mark there. I'm just not sure exactly what that's going to do. It could weaken as it moves through, because the atmosphere has been pretty well worked over, but we could have still plenty of instability to keep that thing going. So a big question mark right now of exactly what's going to happen in this particular area. So I'm not too confident either way in a forecast. Now I will say, let's get a little bit closer to Midlothian here. So about penny to marble size hail from Laura in Midlothian. Waiting to see what we hear from Matt. Okay, so just over an inch. So almost an inch and a quarter there. So that is severe hail. Severe hail is an inch or more in diameter. So it is severe hail really on the south side of Midlothian, the Mount Peak area. So that's where we have our hail core. That is intensifying here. So that's going to continue on to the northeast. So that will hit part of Midlothian here, then over towards Ovilla and Oak Leaf. So, and then that will eventually move towards the DeSoto Lancaster area. Could cross 35 up in southern Dallas County. So that's what we're looking at for this particular storm. Now, back towards Waxahachie. We are seeing this part of the storm looks like that is intensifying now. So part of the Waxahachie area could be looking at some hail falling now as well. Just starting to get the rain here at the studio, and we could get some hail here, and if we do, I'll of course report on that as well. But I'm curious to see what the National Weather Service has to say. Okay, so yeah, I want to see what the National Weather Service has to say, or the Storm Prediction Center more accurately, has to say about our particular area, because the dry line has largely become stationary. The latest high-resolution radar imagery from the Fort Worth shows scattered strong to severe thunderstorms located in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth metro, extending northward into southern Oklahoma. Short-term model forecasts suggest that the convective coverage will increase as the complex moves northeastward across western parts of Arklatex later this evening. Relatively straight photographs will be favorable for storm splits. The air mass is extremely unstable for surfaces. So really they're looking to the Arklatex for the biggest threat tonight. And so that may be a sign that our area is getting ready to be done with this stuff. So that would be a positive. That would allow for some, hopefully some graduation plans to go forward. David, thank you so much for your Cash App donation. Greatly appreciated there. So here's where we have that main hail threat south of Midlothian, really southern side of Midlothian, Mount Peak area there. That continues on to the east. Looks like that may be trying to push due east here a little bit. So I would be watching for that in parts of, in the Sardis area, up towards Red Oak and Oak Leaf and Ovilla, Pecan Hill, that area. So that's where that is headed. This part of the storm in Waxahachie looks like that's kind of building southward here. So that will eventually move towards the Ennis and Bardwell area. So more rain for Ennis here. You've had plenty tonight already, so I don't think you really need it. But it does look like, unfortunately, you're going to get it. So that will continue on there. I was trying to check a couple of things. I'm just very curious to see how that's going to go. And I don't think any models would really be accurate here as far as what to expect over the next, couple of hours here. And I know that there's a lot of folks that are going to be watching very closely to see what happens closer to graduation time in Waxahachie with that outdoor event. Let's kind of broaden this out again. And we're still watching that storm farther to the west. If there's going to be a storm that impacts the graduation plans, it's probably going to be this one. So far, it's really these two storms. I don't see anything else out there. I don't see anything farther south from that Hood County storm. And then there's nothing beyond this storm here in Ellis County, parts of Johnson County. So that will continue on to the northeast. And as that moves out, we'll be watching to see what this storm does. Now, that storm in Granbury looks like that could be posing a rotation threat. And you can kind of see that tail there just west of Granbury. So if anything, we could start to see that storm move more and probably take a right turn. So if anything, I'm a little concerned about this storm impacting parts of Johnson County here. So we'll keep an eye on that storm to see what that does. And I'm waiting for an update on the velocity view here. It looks like that's frozen there, so that's not helping me any. That I'll tell you that feature on Radar Omega, this radar sweep has been pretty controversial, and it's not going well for them. Kim, thank you so much for the Venmo donation. That is greatly appreciated there. So in Granbury, they could be looking at a developing rotation situation there. So we'll be watching that to see what that does, and that will be the next storm that possibly impacts Johnson County, western parts of Johnson County. And then we are still watching the storm in Ellis County. It looks like this new part of this, kind of this extension of this storm is intensifying. That is moving towards Ennis right now. And could be moving up towards the Palmer area, but that's mostly Bardwell up to Ennis. And then just south of Midlothian, that's where we have that hail core that we've been keeping track of. I don't know what's going on in the house right now. There's a lot of banging around, so I apologize if you can hear that on the stream. But moving towards, a lot of questions about rotation in Ellis County. We don't have any rotation right now in the Ellis County area, not that I see. So it could be some gusty winds with this part of the storm here. It could be some gusty winds in the Midlothian area. Okay, a report from Waxahachie High School graduation. The gates at Lumpkins will not open until 7 to give more time to evaluate the weather conditions. That is a large dump truck that just went down the street. I don't know what they're doing, but okay. So yeah, Waxahachie High School graduation, the gates will not open until 7, so that's going to give them more time to kind of evaluate the weather conditions there. So I'm sure they are watching me, waiting for this, waiting to see what this storm is going to do. But we are watching right now this storm in our current area, in the Waxahachie area, the Ellis County area, I would say, here in the studio, right? So there's really two parts to this storm. There's this side, which is moving towards the 45 corridor, could impact parts of northern Navarro County there. And then this particular storm back in the Hood County area, that one is where they could be looking at some rotation there. And I'm watching that on the velocity view to see what happens there. No warnings yet, no tornado warnings or anything with that storm, but that is probably being watched very closely. There could be some gusty winds in the Midlothian area, gusty winds in really west of the Ennis area. And man, some pretty crazy lightning in this storm too. I can see it out the window here. So very loud storm west of Ennis for sure. And then really kind of either side of Waxahachie here. So right in the center of Waxahachie, things are a little more calm. Thank you, Crystal, for your Cash App donation there. It was greatly appreciated. And I apologize if you can hear screaming children in the background, but very upset child. There is a tornado warning. So the tornado warning going to be over here in Hood County. Let's see. That is going to be for, that's Cook County. Okay, a tornado warning for Cook County. So that's far to the north. So no tornado warning in Hood County yet. That is for Cook County. That's Gainesville, up along the Red River. So not here, farther away. So still watching that Hood County storm to see what happens there. But it does look like we are seeing some rotation northwest of Granbury. And so, yeah, Ellis County not seeing any rotation or anything like that. Really, most of a small hail threat west of Ennis here, and then some hail possible south of Midlothian. So that's kind of going more towards Red Oak now, as far as that hail threat there. Looks like that's subsided a little bit. Let's take a look at the vertically integrated liquid here for Ellis County. Let's pause that and go right over to the VIL here. And so, yeah, so some small hail, some hail possible Bardwell. Looks like the hail threat has kind of subsided here towards the Sardis area, Waxahachie High School area, and then right around Venus. There could be some hail with that too. So this little kind of complex of storms, little cluster here, could be hail in a few areas there. Curious to see what this, looking at the velocity radar here, curious to see what that does. Yeah, still some rotation there northwest of Granbury. So we'll continue to kind of keep an eye on that. We'll see what that does. Nothing too terribly intimidating right now, but could be an issue there for Hood County down the road if that continues to kind of intensify there. So just some rain here at the studio right now, watching this storm west of Ennis. That's going to bring more rain to the Bardwell-Ennis area. Not that you need more, but you're going to get more. And then there is more rain moving through Waxahachie right now, northwest of Waxahachie, right there along 287. That's where we have the hail threat there. And then that's going to be moving towards Red Oak, so towards 35 as well. So penny-sized hail reported just south of Midlothian. That was about 6 minutes ago. So that was that is on amateur radio reported south of Midlothian there. So various sizes of hail. We did get one report of about 1.25 inches in diameter hail just south of Midlothian, south side of Midlothian, right around the Mount Peak area. So, hail reported in this storm, nothing too crazy, nothing too big for this storm, but we are seeing now this is intensifying west of Ennis. So this has been a very persistent system that we've been watching, and for right now, it's not quite where I want it. So west of us, we are still watching this storm in the Granbury area to see what that does. It's possible that could just head southwest and barely really hit our area. It looks like that is going to be heading towards Granbury there, and then that could hit western portions of Johnson County. But if that storm takes a right turn and moves, and that stays west of Waxahachie, which seems fairly likely at this point, then graduation services could be untouched. I mean, could go without interference here. So that's possible. Again, we are still, a couple hours out, so it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen around 8 o'clock. But for the moment, it looks like things are looking pretty decent for the Waxahachie graduation ceremonies there. So looking okay so far, but really can't guarantee anything here. Looking a little bit farther out, a little more broad, this is what we have across our area. It looks like a new little cell popping up in parts of Navarro County here, heading towards Corsicana. So a new shower could become a thunderstorm here. We're watching the severe storm in the Ellis County area there, and then we are watching back in Hood County to see what this particular storm does, to see if that will impact western parts of our area later tonight. As we mentioned, we have been watching storms on the dry line, and then we've been watching the storms with this disturbance that have passed through as well. So for the moment here, we really don't have anything much going on in terms of that severe weather. We do have some hail in Ellis County right now, parts of Johnson County. There could be some flood concerns here because this storm is not exactly moving at a very fast pace. Same with this storm in Hood County. There's been a lot of heavy rain north of Granbury, so there could be a bit of a flood problem there. But that storm also showing some at least more broad rotation at this point. Not very concise or centralized rotation at the moment in that storm. but that could intensify over the next several minutes here. Continued heavy rain reported in the Venus area. Let's see what this update shows with the winds over in Granbury area, western Granbury. Let's see what this does, watching the update come in. Could be some gusty winds moving towards Ennis. We kind of covered that. So again, just broad rotation west of Granbury right now. So not seeing anything major there. Just more reports of heavy rain, some small hail in both of these parts of this storm in Ellis County right now. So really, Johnson County, things are clearing out in eastern Johnson County, western Johnson County near Godley. We are watching to see what that storm is going to do. So as I mentioned, a lot of people asking about graduation in Waxahachie. We are in a bit of a waiting period here, so not too much that we can say, other than the fact that we're just about 2 hours out from the graduation ceremonies, and of course just about an hour away from doors opening. Waxahachie High School saying that those doors will open at 7 o'clock. So about an hour from now that those doors will open. So we'll have to see what that does. Not seeing a tornado threat for Ennis right now, Jessica. If you heard that from anybody, then there's not really anything to that. Hearing someone say it's getting bad in Italy, there's not much going on in Italy right now. East of there might be, but not much in Italy at the moment here. So Italy is actually some of the lighter conditions at the moment, at least per radar from what we can see here. So for graduation, you have been advised to bring a towel. It will be, the seats will be wet there. And so just be prepared for, very wet seats out there. You're going to have to dry those yourself. Just take a towel with you, and you'll be set to go. Can't really understand that comment. I guess there's some typos there. But if you're going to graduation ceremonies at Lumpkin Stadium outside in Waxahachie, definitely take a towel with you. Going to be very, very wet out there. Well, Madison, you're asking if the storm hitting Granbury, will that hit Venus? That's a question that's still up in the air right now. Exactly where this storm in Granbury goes, not too sure, because we got to wait and see if that's going to keep a right turn. Looks like it's almost moving south now towards Granbury. If it does, that would move to the west of Venus, but it could head more easterly here. So still a little unsure exactly what that Granbury storm is going to do. It hasn't moved much. And so we'll have to kind of wait and see. A new severe thunderstorm warning issued, and that does appear to cover it moving farther south. And so that is, looks like that's kind of what they're focused on right now, is that storm moving closer to Somervell County. So it does look like that storm, for the moment, does look like for the most part that storm would be heading south, which would take it away from Waxahachie. So the signs are good for graduation tonight, at least looking at in terms of whether it's going to be storming there. I mean, you will need to take a towel with you to dry those seats. But I would say for the most part, as far as storms impacting Waxahachie during that time, it's not looking very likely that there will be storms in Waxahachie at that time. Again, it all depends. It all depends on what this does. All depends on what this storm does. So I haven't seen any kind of new development that would bring storms into our area at that time, but we will have to continue to watch, because as I mentioned, Sasha, you're saying a tornado warning was just issued. There's not a tornado warning in our area. The only tornado warning I've seen is for Cook County, way up north along the Red River. So not seeing a tornado warning for our area here, just, to let you know. So if you are seeing a tornado warning, that's Cook County. That's Thackerville, that's Gainesville, That's up along the Red River. So nothing for our particular area here. Kelly, you're asking about a Railroaders game in Cleburne at 6:30. It looks that way, but again, we're kind of waiting to see what this storm in the Granbury area does. It really, really, really depends on what that storm does, and we have to watch it because I don't exactly know whether that storm is going to continue to move due south. Will it try to move eastward? Unsure. It does show some rotation. That's probably what storm. Yeah, Sasha, I think you might be seeing something off there. I think what you saw was probably not a tornado warning. Just to let you know. Now, I am watching south of Venice here. Some increasing winds there. We'll have to watch and see if that turns into rotation. At the moment, it doesn't look like it will, but we'll keep an eye on that for you over the next several minutes. But yeah, no tornado warnings. If anything, Sasha, I think you were looking at a severe thunderstorm warning. Very, very different things. So just make sure you're kind of watching for those clues on what's what there, because promise, that's what I'm thinking is you're probably looking at a severe thunderstorm warning. Those are two very, very different things. So severe thunderstorm warning just means strong winds, large hail, and then a tornado warning specifically means a tornado. So there's a big difference there. So you just kind of have to be careful and make sure you see what's going on there. A lot of lightning here, and it looks like the lights are starting to flicker a little bit. So hopefully we don't lose power. After all the technical issues we had the other night, I am in no mood to lose power here. So no severe thunderstorm warnings for Ellis County right now. This storm near Ennis does look to be picking up its intensity a little bit, though. So we'll see what that ends up doing. But for the moment, no severe thunderstorm warnings in Ellis County. The only thing we see is west of our area in Hood County. So that for Granbury for that particular storm right there. And we do again have that area of rotation that we are watching. It's not intense rotation at this time, not indicating a developing tornado at the moment, at least not from what I can tell. And then we will watch the Ennis storm to see what that does, to see what those winds on the southern end of that storm are doing there, to see if that's trying to rotate or just maybe a downburst or something like that. Yeah, a lot of places where the lights are flickering, and a lot of the rain is probably going to be a part of that. Very heavy rain in some places, very persistent rain. I mean, we're on the way to half an inch here at the studio. Tons of thunder and lightning at Ennis High School. Intense thunder and lightning near Shackelford. Yeah, I mean, that's the area where I'm kind of the region, part of Waxahachie I'm in. So we're experiencing that too, and really hoping the power does not drop here. Whoa! Wow! Couldn't see for a second, that was so bright. Very, very close lightning out there. I just lost, let's see. I think I lost Matt, so I'm assuming the power might have gone out there. For Ellis County right now, let me just remind you, there's no severe thunderstorm warnings right now. No severe thunderstorm warnings in Ellis County at the moment, but we are looking at some pretty intense storms in the Ennis area, northern Waxahachie as well. That's moving to the east, so that's moving towards Palmer, Ferris area, and then this moving into the Ennis area. Fairly intense storm there. So Liberty, yeah, plenty of thunder in Waxahachie. That's what we're hearing. So hearing there's hail at 287 and 67, so that's going to be back in the Midlothian area. And then here's that update. So the heaviest part of this storm moving into the eastern part of the county now. And in the Midlothian area, you're getting some heavier precipitation there. And then, so let's just kind of zoom into Ellis County. Lots of things going on there. So a few things going on. So let's talk about this. First of all, we have, let's stop this for a second. First of all, we have some of this activity intensifying near Midlothian, so could be some small hail there. Over in the Pecan Hill area, some more intense precipitation, could be some small hail. This intensifying near Ennis. Now, what I want to point out, and something that I am watching in the Ennis area right now, let's get over the velocity. I'm watching this right here. looks like we could be looking at some rotation here, because that's moving away from the radar, that's moving towards the radar, and that would indicate that pattern. So we're going to watch in southern, south of Bardwell there. This is what I'm seeing right around Rankin. And looks like maybe some broad rotation here. So we'll keep an eye on that as we are continuing to monitor this. This is Crier Creek and M House in Navarro County. Here's Bardwell, here's Ennis. So this is south, here's Avalon. This is right around Rankin and Bird. So we're going to continue to watch this here and see if this continues to kind of intensify this rotation, possible rotation here. It looks at this moment like it's not too terribly focused, but we will continue to monitor that, because that's definitely an interesting feature here. So let's get back to the reflectivity, and you can see that that's kind of in a rain-free area there, that rotation, and so we will be monitoring that very closely. I do want to see what that does over the next few minutes here. So let's zoom out, and we're still watching this storm where we still have that hook just north of Toller, west of Granbury. So that particular storm does seem to be just kind of hanging out in Northern Hill County, or Northern Hood County rather, and I mean, it hasn't moved much. That's really, for one, that's creating quite the flood concern there. And then we have all of this lightning, a lot of lightning in this storm in the Ennis area right now. The lightning is finally starting to subside a little bit here at the studio, here north of Waxahachie. That's been a very particular feature here. And man, just an absolutely, yeah, so the Weather Prediction Center now focusing on the flood threat for our area. So the Ennis area, I'm a little concerned about flooding, because there's been a lot of rain there, and this particular storm bringing a lot more heavy rain. So we could be looking at a flood problem, particularly in the Ennis area, I would say, because as far as these storms today, the Ennis area got one of the first storms, and then they just keep getting these downpours. We're now at just above half an inch here at the studio, so those rain amounts are continuing to pile up there. So we will monitor this cell here. Again, I've been watching for the possibility of at least some broad rotation right around the really south of Bardwell for this particular storm. So we'll see what updates look like here. Curious to see what that looks like here in the next few minutes when we get a radar update. If we have any kind of hook echo that tries to develop here, or on the velocity, if we see that couplet developing or intensifying there. And that is south of Ennis, south of Bardwell. This is going to be right in here. So between Bardwell and M House, really, that's where we're looking at the possibility of some rotation here. So I'm going to continue to monitor that. I've got the velocity here on another one of these monitors, and we haven't looked at a very high tornado threat today, but it's not zero. I don't think we ever quite say that the tornado threat is zero, unless we can say that there's no storms going on. Then we will possibly be looking at some rotation in a few of these storms. Okay, so I'm going to continue watching this, because you do see that hook developing here. This is south of Ennis, near Onion Creek. So we have this little bit of a circulation developing here, at least from what I can tell on the reflectivity. Let's see what, okay, we do have increasing rotation here. That's confirmed by the velocity. I want to show you that. And so that is moving towards the Ennis area. So if you're in Ennis, be prepared here, because we are looking at increasing, what looks to me like increasing rotation here near Bird and Onion Creek. Here's Bardwell, here's Ennis. So this is south of Ennis. Here's the county line right here. This is going to be moving towards Rice, towards Alma. So we'll continue to monitor this. We'll continue to watch this here. Oak Grove, Ensign, Alma, Onion Creek. This is the area where we're seeing this increasing rotation here. No tornado warning right now. No, nothing really confirmed. Matt, I don't know if you're hearing any spotters in the area, but we will continue to monitor this for far southern Ellis County, far northern Navarro County. So this is where we're watching for the possibility of intensifying rotation. We will need to keep a close eye on this. I'm sure the National Weather Service is watching this as well. I don't think we're hearing anything from storm spotters here. So let's get back to the reflectivity and kind of show you that. Here's what we're looking at. So we have seen this shape take shape fairly quickly here, and closer to downtown Ennis, we're looking at more of a hail threat. But south of Ennis here, south of town, is where we have possible rotation. So I would say if you're in, if you're in Alma, Rice, that particular area, north of M House, this is where I would be taking shelter at this time. We do not have a tornado warning yet, but it does look like we have quickly intensifying rotation. Okay, so the National Weather Service calling for a new severe thunderstorm warning that will be issued here for this storm. They're calling for winds of 60 miles per hour. Now, so that would suggest that they're looking at more of a straight line wind concern. But I would contend that I'm a little more concerned about rotation here because of the location of those winds. So I'm not exactly sure what the National Weather Service is going for here, but it does sound like we have a new severe thunderstorm warning that will be issued shortly for southern Ellis County, northern Navarro County for this storm, and they're calling for winds of 60 miles per hour. So I guess we'll see what they put on that storm. There are times when they'll put a tornado possible tag on something like that, but we'll see what they do here with that warning. But it does look to me like there could be some increasing rotation with that particular storm. I know that we're only seeing the red colors here, and normally that would look like maybe a downburst or something, but just the shape of it, just the way and its location relative to the radar, that's going to be outbound winds. That's going to be outbound winds, and so here's that severe thunderstorm warning. But I don't know, guys. I'm still thinking that we could be looking at some rotation here. We will see if that possibly, that's a pretty standard severe thunderstorm warning there. Yeah, so pretty standard severe thunderstorm warning with that storm. But this is south of Ennis, north of M House. This is what I'm watching right in there, because we do have increasing winds, pretty pinpointed winds there. And frankly, the winds that I'm seeing here just don't look like straight line winds to me on the velocity. So we'll see what that does. And we just had that updated, and it still looks to me like we're looking at possibly some rotation there. So we're going to continue to monitor this, and still seeing what looks like at very least some broad rotation. If not, it looks to me like we might be looking at a little bit more of a couplet there. But the National Weather Service so far doesn't appear to agree with that. I'm not in the room, so I can't speak to that, but I will say that it looks to me, and I've been doing this for a minute here, it looks to me like we're looking at some kind of rotation west of Rice, and you can see that shape there now. So I'm going to keep monitoring that, and I'm going to keep advising that we take that seriously. Let's watch that very closely, see what that does, because I'm just not convinced at this point that we're looking at straight line winds in the southern part of this storm. I think if we were looking at straight line winds, normally you're going to see that closer to the core of the storm, north, closer to Ennis, but we're not really seeing that here. This is right in here, that southwest corridor of the storm. So that's where we're seeing those increasing winds. That's why I'm a little bit concerned about that right now, and why I'm giving that a lot of attention. But nothing from the National Weather Service yet. So pretty standard warning there. I would say they're probably mostly warning for the hail core here. I don't think that really really relates to the increasing rotation there. I think it's fair to say that the Fort Worth and National Weather Service office has at times been cautious on issuing tornado warnings, and there's reasons to feel that way. So they're not necessarily wrong, but I would say that this one, we definitely have to keep watching very closely to see what that does. And this, we could get to a point where this rotation starts to subside in the next frame. We've had it where this rotation will whip up a second and then it just kind of lasts for a couple frames and then it's gone. But we'll have to wait and see. We don't have any word from spotters yet on exactly what is happening there. We don't have any eyes out there looking at this as far as I can tell. But this is west of Rice. This is the southern part of the storm. We've had a lot of history of storms that'll start trying to whip up some rotation and then it doesn't last. That's what I'm hoping we see here. But for the moment, looks like we do have some decent winds north of M House, west of Rice, right in here. This is the part of the storm where I'm watching very closely. And so we're waiting for this next update on the radar. Hasn't quite hit yet. And Ted Rogers, unhappy with me. I swear listening to you is like listening to a kid trying to fill out an essay with unnecessary extra words. So much unnecessary filter. Just reporting, get it over with. I guess this guy wants me to just say it's raining, and that'd be it. But I'm sorry I'm giving extra detail here, but there are plenty of guys on TV who really can't say much more. So that's, I may not be your cup of tea, and that's fine. That's not a problem there. But we'll continue to monitor this storm because, again, I do think that we're looking at some kind of rotation there. Once we see that next scan, that next radar scan, we could very well see more. We could see that weaken. We could see that rotation subside. That's my hope. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the next radar update here, and should get that here in the next really any time now. So we'll get the update on the reflectivity first, and then we will move on, and then we'll hear or get the update on the velocity after that. So we'll have to watch and see what happens here. I'm hoping that we will. I'm hoping we'll see. Possibly, at least. I'm hoping we'll see. Okay. Well, that's not encouraging. West of Rice. For one, we see the hail core that is definitely intensifying here, and then the good news is the velocity. It looks like the winds have decreased a little bit, but I mean we're still seeing a little bit of a hook there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. The National Weather Service hasn't issued anything yet. But we'll see what that does. Let's zoom out and kind of check on a couple of other things here. So this part of the storm moving northeast going to be moving into southern Dallas County fairly soon. Somebody saying massive hail. You really don't know what that. I don't know what massive hail means. Everybody's definition of that is different. So give us a measurement here, and that'll give us a better idea. This storm in the Granbury area is okay. So here's a comment that just came in. Somebody saying clear hook in Granbury 2, NWS asleep. Here's the thing, and it's been a popular trend recently to bash on the National Weather Service. But here's the thing: there might be a hook, but I'm not seeing clear circulation. I'm not seeing clear rotation. You can have a hook all day long. There are hooks without any kind of rotation attached. So just because you have a hook on that storm does not mean that it necessitates a tornado warning. You have to have the rotation of the circulation to go along with that. I'm just not seeing it on velocity. So, National Weather Service, as far as not putting a tornado warning on that storm, to me, is not a big deal. Now, they do have a severe thunderstorm warning there with a tornado possible tag, which means this storm, it could start to rotate fairly soon, but if anything, in the Granbury storm, the rotation has become less organized here, from what I can tell. It's fairly broad, fairly disorganized, so not really that concerned about it. I'm more concerned about the rotation in this particular storm south of Ennis here. Hearing there's hail moving into Alma right now, and that does follow what we're seeing here. So here's that hail core, that this black that you see. So that's That's where you see the biggest hail threat. And then you can see the very clear hook on this particular storm. Now, again, just having a hook in a storm is not enough to issue a tornado warning. Period. That's just the way that is. We're watching velocity. We have to actually see the winds rotating in order to get the best idea of where we do actually need those tornado warnings. If we had to issue a tornado warning for every hook in a storm, I mean, that would be a very, very broad category, and so that's just a fact of the matter. So there's a lot that goes. There's a lot more that goes into just if you have a hook on a storm of whether or not you issue a tornado warning. So there's a lot more that factors into that, and you also see a lot of National Weather Service offices that are hesitant to issue those tornado warnings because you can issue a warning and then a tornado doesn't happen, and then you have people that are criticizing them left and right. So unfortunately, we have so many Monday morning quarterbacks that are saying, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. And unfortunately, if a tornado warning is issued and there's not a tornado with that storm, people will start acting like they're crying wolf, when really what happens is they're trying to issue a tornado warning if a tornado is imminent, not necessarily going on. They would like to let you know before the tornado happens. That can mean at times that you have a circulation that just happens to somehow not produce a tornado. I've seen plenty of them where there was every sign in the world and it didn't produce a tornado. Why? We don't know. We don't know that yet. We don't know why some circulations produce those tornadoes and why some don't, but that doesn't mean the tornado was wrong or that the warning itself was wrong. So you got to give the National Weather Service a little bit of a break there. But we are watching this, and I want to see what the next update looks like here. Now, I will say here that, okay, so at least that's looking a little bit, that's a little bit more encouraging. So not really seeing so much of a hook there. Let's see what the velocity radar looks like. That circulation, that rotation is starting to subside a little bit. So it looks like this is going to be one of those where the rotation doesn't really persist very long, doesn't really hold on very long, and we've seen a few of those today. But, I mean, it looked fairly intense there for a moment. So the good news is that the rotation looks to be subsiding as that moves into Rice. So we can't take our eyes off of it, but we can at least relax a little bit. We still have some rain in lightning thunder in the Oak Leaf area, southern Dallas County. That will continue to move on in the northeast. And we're still watching this particular storm that largely has not moved. I mean, you look at the radar, it's just sitting there north of Granbury. And there is a hook associated with that. And the velocity, I mean, there's not a lot of organized circulation there, so at least from what I can see. So, that's kind of what we're seeing there. Not really looking at... not looking at any kind of organized rotation, even though there's still a hook there. Now, western Johnson County, you're getting some rain now, some energy coming off of this here, but for Ellis County here, this hail core looks fairly intimidating. Let's get zoomed back on that storm. That storm is severe warned appropriately here, especially for the hail core just north of Rice, moving through the Alma area right now. So that will continue to move on to the east. That's moving towards far, far northern Navarro County and then far western Henderson County. Chris Andrade, we were watching the hook on that storm, but there's not a whole lot of rotation with it. So that particular storm, though, not even moving towards our area right now. So Judy, you're saying 50-cent size, so I guess a 50-cent coin, but... So that's where we're seeing the hail right now, north of Rice, and looks like the Ennis area is kind of clearing out now. That'll be on the backside, and these will be calming down there fairly soon. But the most intimidating and the most intense part of the storm right now is just north of Rice. That's where we have that hail core right now, and I'll keep an eye on that part of the storm where we were looking at the possible rotation that was developing there. Looks like that has kind of de-escalated a little bit here. I'm hoping to see that trend continue. Yeah, so hearing that Alma is getting a lot of hail right now, so that could be fairly large hail with that storm. Quarter-sized hail reported, at least, or an inch in diameter hail with the warning itself could easily be larger. Not really seeing any kind of, not really seeing any reports, at least, of the size of the hail, but it is definitely out there. I mean, radar definitely corroborates that. So hearing there's a lot of hail coming down, just not really sure at this point what size that looks like. So we've kind of been counting down to graduation in Waxahachie. A lot of folks watching, wondering about that, and I'm sure our viewer numbers will probably go up as we get closer. But for right now, doors will open in about half an hour at graduation, and there's not much happening moving towards Waxahachie. This will all move away. The storm in Granbury has been in Granbury for the longest time now. It's just been sitting there, and I don't really see anything. We can zoom this out, but I don't see much other than maybe this little shower in Bosque County here. Don't see much moving towards Waxahachie here. So it looks like graduation should be in a pretty good spot for this, for that event, unless something changes, which I don't really anticipate. So should be good to go there. So, you know, we'll see what happens over the course of the next hour and a half, 2 hours. But for the moment, nothing really threatening graduation in Waxahachie. We'll have to see what these little cells in Bosque and Hill County do, but doesn't look like they're going to do much. I frankly think that the atmosphere has been worked over enough in this area. I mean, we've had off and on storms for a few hours now, so I think that we're probably looking at a pretty good situation there. Okay, so sounds like the National Weather Service is increasing this warning here in parts of Ellis County. That's getting ready to leave the county there, but it is still around. So just east of Alma there. So this hail core, they're increasing that to the possibility of golf ball size hail. So this storm, capable of producing golf ball sized hail here. So that's the concern with that one. They will continue to monitor that, of course, but that will be, I think, a bigger issue farther east. So here we have far southeastern Ellis County, far northern Navarro County, and then that will go on into Henderson and Kaufman counties here. So this is that hail core, but they are increasing the risk there to golf ball size hail. So fairly major concern there as far as that is concerned. I mean, if you ask me especially, golf ball size hail possible for that. So yeah, they just updated that severe thunderstorm warning, considerable damage threat with that storm. So golf ball size hail possible with that storm. That's north of Rice, just moved through Alma here, and then that's going to continue on to the east, out of our area and into Henderson County. So if you're in far northern Navarro County, far southeastern Ellis County, then that is the warning they're talking about. That could produce some golf ball size hail. And then, let's see. New warning up in parts of Dallas County. That's far north of us, though. And Michaela, thank you so much for your Cash App donation. Greatly appreciated there. So we'll take a quick look at this storm over in Granbury. There's been a lot of conversation about it, and everybody's pointing at this hook. Well, at the moment, I'm really not seeing anything in terms of in any kind of concise or focused or tight rotation. Not really seeing that at the moment. So, but as we look at, get back to the Rice storm, which is in our area, starting to see more of a straight line wind threat out of this storm here. So and I can show you that here. I can show you kind of the difference. So what we saw earlier was rotation, where we saw winds moving away from the radar and towards the radar. So you can kind of see that rotation. Now it's a little bit of a different situation, and it's actually farther up in the storm here. We're seeing where you kind of have this bow shape, and presumably those are moving this way. Now, what's interesting, and it could be this way, but what's interesting is normally green's moving towards the radar, but it does look more like straight line winds there in the Rice area. And that's more in the core of the storm. That's when we would normally see those straight line winds. It's more in the center of that storm, closer to the hail core and those kind of things. So east of Rice, just don't be surprised if you're seeing, that's northern Navarro County, could be seeing some increasing straight line winds for that area. And Megan, that was the point I was just making, is that the atmosphere could be pretty well worked over to where that could prevent more storms from really intensifying. This storm here, I'm really not concerned about it for our area because it's just been sitting there on the north side of Granbury for quite some time now. If anything, it's a flooding risk there. But everybody's been talking about that hook on that storm. I'm also not really seeing any kind of rotation there, but at least not organized rotation at this point. But that will continue to just kind of hang out there in Hood County, I think. I don't really see anything happening for our particular area. Western Johnson County, you're getting some you're getting some feed off there, kind of some blow off not rotation, but precipitation there. And then for Waxahachie, we'll have to watch these little kind of small cells here, but I'm not really expecting much out of that here. So getting messages of, I guess, videos of rotation. So we'll take a look at that. So very shaky video, hard to really tell. Yeah, it's hard to tell. The video's moving around a lot, so I can't really tell what I'm looking at there. And then just several pictures of hail and that kind of thing. So Mike Butler, I apologize, but I mean, you sent in the video of, but it was moving around too much. I can't really see the motion in the video. It's hard to tell. Hard to tell what I'm looking at there. But if there was rotation in Rice, that was earlier. That would have been earlier. Looks like that has kind of subsided now, so I'm not really concerned about that at this point. But we were looking at some rotation trying to develop there on the earlier this evening, but I'm not really concerned about rotation at this point. Do you have any update on the storm that's supposed to hit Streetman area around 8? Cameron, I don't really know what you're talking about there. There's not really anything going on around that area. There's Streetman, southern Navarro County. There's not really anything moving that way. Now, if you're looking at a future radar, then those don't know what they're talking about. Listen to a human being, not an automated app. So, but there's really nothing moving towards Streetman right now. So, if you're looking at a future radar or something, then don't listen to that because there's really, there's nothing there. Empty. So unless it has something just kind of magically developing there, we'll put this into motion, but I don't really know what it's referring to. Now we are seeing some new development here, so I mean it's we could have something. Cameron, if you're looking at the WAP, which is the Fox 4's weather app, then yeah, I mean that's the national weather, or that's actually the Weather Channel's API. That's the Weather Channel's data, and so that's not very good. I'll just tell you that. The Weather Channel, their app has not been very great, unfortunately. So, it's blown up storms out of nowhere where nothing was expected. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the way those go. And Marty, you're asking if the dry line's gotten here yet. It's not going to get here. The dry line won't move through until at least Sunday. Sunday it could clear our area, bring some drier air. A cold front later Monday will definitely bring some drier air for Tuesday. So there are a couple of things we're watching for that kind of time period, but the dry line is stalled out west. If anything, it's retreating westward. So the dry line itself is not expected to come through. here's that storm west of us, finally getting some motion on this thing. It's finally moving somewhere. Looks like it's moving more southeasterly. So we will have to watch this for western Johnson County, but for right now, it is still in the Granbury area. And then south of Godley, we are watching what could be a strengthening storm there, but I imagine this larger storm will probably just absorb that. And Shalina, you're in Malakoff, so that's a little east of our area, but we can take a peek there. It said it's a constant roar. It's probably just frequent lightning and thunder. That would be my guess in the Malakoff area. We're not looking at any kind of a tornado with the train sounds and all that kind of stuff. There's not any kind of rotation that we can see in this storm right this minute. Certainly not any kind of developing tornado or anything. So I don't think we're looking at any kind of tornado roar or anything like that. Michelle, there's been rotation on and off in that storm in Granbury. Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing that. We've been hearing that from different sources. But again, I mean, we can see that on radar, that rotation has been kind of come and go in the Granbury area. There's a hook there. And so a lot of your weather pages and stuff are going to, they're going to report that they see rotation just because there's a hook there. And that's not really how it works. You have to be able to see the rotation on velocity. Now, I will say that for that Granbury storm, I'm looking at it on velocity on another screen, and I'm seeing a fair bit of what's probably rotation there. And it's had a pretty persistent hook for a while there. So that storm, I mean, yeah, we've been seeing rotation and a hook and on and off for that storm for quite a while now. There's discussions of rotation on that storm, but for one, it's not immediately in our area. Two, I mean, it's not really much of a concern, at least for me at this moment. No tornado warnings on it, at least. And okay, so I think my wife's trying to get the littlest kiddo to follow directions, which is tough. So for our particular area, a couple of things I'm watching here. This storm moving out, that'll be moving into Henderson County there very soon, out of our particular area. I am watching some of this activity. We are getting new activity developing. I don't know that this is going to become severe, but this could at least bring some rain to Lumpkin Stadium in Waxahachie right around the time they're opening the gates. So I don't know that we're looking at anything that's going to be severe out of all of this, but it could at least make things a little less convenient for you over there. Fairly intense storm in western Johnson County. I think that's going to be pretty well absorbed by this larger storm in Hood County, but we are watching the Hood County storm to see if that's going to impact western portions of Johnson County here. So just a few things that we're watching, and the public reports half of, hail of quarter size at 6:20 p.m. in Alma. So quarter size hail reported in Alma with this particular storm. Now that storm is capable of producing golf ball size hail. That has been discussed already once. So I mean, that's, that storm as it moves into Henderson County should definitely be taken seriously. But the next severe storm, and this is coming off the dry line, is this storm near Granbury. It's had off and on rotation. It's had different things going on with it, right? It's been really a slow mover for a while now. I mean, it's been bearing down on Granbury for quite some time. Seems like it's been in Granbury, been in Hood County for a while. I don't know, it's been an hour or more or what, but it seems like it's just been there for a very long time, bearing down on Northern Hill County. I'm sure they're tired of the storm by now, but it does look like it's starting to move more. So that really, I would say, is moving towards far western Johnson County, possibly into Somervell County here too, and then northern Bosque County eventually, possibly parts of Hill County. So it's going to be a while though. It's not moving very fast. So we have a lot of time to watch that thing and see what it's going to do. But as far as graduation is concerned in Waxahachie, the two things that may cause a problem is if we start getting lightning off of this storm, that could stretch out a little bit. And then we'll have to watch and see what this all of this does as we go forward to see if that's going to bring some rain in. But for the moment, for our area, things are relatively relaxed at this very moment. We're still dealing with this storm in parts of Navarro County, parts of Ellis County here. It's taking its time moving to the east here, so that's still in our viewing area here. So again, I mean, that particular storm, it is warned for good reason. We still have enough of a hail threat there to keep the concern there. Could be some very disorganized rotation with that storm, but not anything that has me concerned at the moment. Granbury looks like that area probably has some very disorganized rotation as well. So any kind of rotation we have in either of these storms right now, not anything that has me particularly worried here. So I think for the most part we're getting, and I was kind of hoping for this, kind of getting into a little bit of a lull here in terms of this activity. This storm, it's taking its time moving east, but and Shalina, so you're saying, do you follow Doc Deason weather? He does what Kevin does and covers Henderson County, just doesn't do as good as Kevin. So I've never heard of Doc Deason weather. I guess that's just local to Henderson County there. But I guess I'll have to look at it. And you can see Ennis on the map here. Everything's moved away from Ennis, so everything's moving to the east. So Ennis is kind of cooling down, calming down right now. So that will be headed out. I'm sure you can still hear that storm there in the Ennis area, but for right now, we continue to see more precipitation developing, more showers, but not much severe going on there, but that could again cause some issues with graduation, just rain wise. This storm in Johnson County, all the energy being taken by that big storm, and this larger storm just taking its time there. Somebody asking about Burleson, not really much of anything going on in Burleson right now. That storm staying west of there, that larger storm staying west over in Hood County. So the Hood County storm is really the next thing to possibly impact our area. And that's if it ever gets out of Hood County. For now, it's taking its sweet time there, taking a while to get through. And so for me personally, I don't think we're really going to see much happening at all with that storm in our particular area for a while now. And we're just about a little over an hour away from, let me check here. Yeah, just over an hour away from graduation in Waxahachie. Thank you so much, Brett and Luke, for your Cash App donations. Greatly appreciated there. And yeah, I mean, we're looking at just kind of a lull developing, which is good because I think we all really, we deserve a bit of a break here. To be honest with you, I mean, it's just, it's been overdue. I think we've been on the air for just over 3.5 hours, and man, these earlier storms, I wasn't expecting. This first round, I expected the storms off the dry line, which is where this Granbury storm came from. I figured those would probably be our biggest focus here, but we've had a number of storms already. And we've already pretty well worked over the atmosphere. So that gives me some hope, at least, that we may not be able to get much more severe weather here for our particular area. And that storm continues to move eastward. That's moved north. And now we're just watching the storm off to the west in the Granbury area. But for now, that looks to stay west of our area. May move down into Somervell County and then over into Bosque County there. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break here. Let's see, Scott, thank you so much for your donation through the Cash App. Greatly appreciated. But thank you so much for hanging out with me for what seems like really most of the afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and sign off the live stream now, give myself a chance to kind of look over things, give WISD some information, and we'll continue to monitor all of this, of course. I'll continue to monitor that storm as well as this development to the southwest to see if that will interfere with any of our plans this evening. But for now, things are winding down for us. I will say this is hanging around Currents can't catch a break tonight. You folks over in far eastern Navarro County, it just won't let go. Seems like storms just grab onto eastern Navarro County and just hang on there. But it's finally starting to move eastward, so that'll continue to move out over into Henderson County. But we'll just wrap this up and give me a chance to kind of sit down and really analyze things, and then I will bring more live coverage if necessary tonight of more severe weather. But for now, looks like we might be done. But in case we're not,